Chapter 261. Although Thousand Horse City wasn't big, the people who lived here lived and worked in peace and contentment. There wasn't much of a commercial atmosphere here, and most of the streets were filled with animal skins and vegetables. There were many children training on the drill ground not far from the city gate. When they saw Feng Qingyu and the others pass by, they stopped and greeted the deputy commander. This place was more like a place where the family members of the soldiers settled down. There were more elderly, women, and children. Feng Qingyu led Li Zhongjiu into the general's mansion, which was also the city lord's mansion. After all, this was the fief of the old Yuan general, and he could call it whatever he wanted. When Li Zhongjiu walked into the general's mansion, he could clearly feel that the defense here had been upgraded. Many experts were secretly observing Li Zhongjiu. If Li Zhongjiu made any strange movements, they would rush out without hesitation and take him down. Li Zhongjiu reckoned that even if He Chai or Shan Feng had brought him here, it wouldn't have been so easy for them to enter the general's mansion. Fortunately, he was following Feng Qingyu, so his journey was smooth. After all, Feng Qingyu was a Sky Origin Ancestor level expert and had over 10 members of the Green Wind Army by her side. These people had all been carefully selected and had gone through countless trials and tribulations before they had finally become experts. Qingyu, why are you here? In the hall, there was a majestic-looking man who was nearly 2 meters tall. He was wearing a white robe, but he gave off an unapproachable feeling. He gave off a sense of oppression. Beside the man, there were 3 old men. Obviously, they had been discussing matters, but when they saw Feng Qingyu and the others enter, they couldn't help but stop talking. Commander, this is Li Zhongjiu. He came to Thousand Horse City and I met him at the city gate. He claimed that he could save the general. Feng Qingyu cupped her hands and said. Oh. The middle-aged man looked at Li Zhongjiu. Not only that, but the 3 elders on his left and right also looked at Li Zhongjiu. Qingyu, this. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. Wasn't this a little too childish? Most importantly, Feng Qingyu was usually extremely intelligent and would never do anything foolish. How could he be so foolish at this time? Li Zhongjiu was so young. Even if he started learning pharmacology when he was in his mother's womb, how many years of experience would he have? Any one of the 3 people sitting next to him had at least 3 times more experience and skill level than Li Zhongjiu. Just in this aspect, they had already surpassed Li Zhongjiu. In comparison, it would be difficult for Li Zhongjiu to become their apprentice. The 3 old men also conversed with each other, pointing at Li Zhongjiu as they discussed in low voices. Feng Qingyu looked at the situation before her. She gritted her teeth and took a step forward. Commander, don't worry. I can guarantee Li Zhongjiu's ability. Please let Li Zhongjiu have a try. Feng Qingyu took the initiative to say. She was actually willing to use her reputation to testify for Li Zhongjiu and support Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu did not expect this. After all, both of them had never met and today was the first time they fought. Feng Qingyu's willingness to vouch for Li Zhongjiu made Li Zhongjiu feel touched. However, what she said next made Li Zhongjiu feel as though he had fallen into a trap. If Li Zhongjiu can't cure the general, I will kill him myself. These words were spoken in a sonorous manner. At the same time, she glanced at Li Zhongjiu. Her eyes were filled with a sinister smile. This girl obviously wanted to get rid of him. Li Zhongjiu could not help but shake his head in his heart. A woman's heart was indeed the most vicious. He could not offend this woman easily in the future. Commander Nan, since this young friend is so confident, there's no harm in letting him try. An old man took the initiative to speak. However, after he finished speaking, he turned to Li Zhongjiu and said. Young friend, I am Medicine Master Changbai of Changbai Mountain. I have been in the medicine world for more than 50 years. May I know who your master is? Maybe I have some impression of him. Medicine Master Changbai said. Judging from the attitude of the other two, they seemed to be in awe of Medicine Master Chang Bai. When Pill Master Chang Bai introduced himself, he could be considered modest. Medicine Master Chang Bai was now in the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion's evaluation. He was a true medicine king. He was as famous as the South Heaven Elixir King. Although the two of them were in different directions, Medicine Master Chang Bai was not necessarily weaker than the South Heaven Elixir King if he wanted to refine something. However, medicine masters were particular about recuperation. In order to achieve rapid results, they had to refine elixirs. I have heard of you. Your standard is not bad. Li Zhongjiu said to Medicine Master Chang Bai. To be able to receive such an evaluation from Li Zhongjiu, one could see that Medicine Master Chang Bai was a person of true standard. Medicine Master Chang Bai's face stiffened when he heard Li Zhongjiu's words. What kind of words were these? This brat was too arrogant. He actually dared to criticize him, the medicine king of Changbai. When he used a medicinal herb to cure the plague and saved hundreds of thousands of people, this brat was still wearing open-crotch pants. When Feng Qingyu heard Li Zhongjiu's words, she chuckled in her heart. Li Zhongjiu was really bold. He actually dared to say such things about the medicine king of Changbai. It seemed like he was going to suffer. If he couldn't show any real ability, he would really die. If there is no problem, then bring me to see your city lord. The sooner I treat him, the sooner I can leave. I still have things to do. Li Zhongjiu said. He acted as if he was here to treat an illness. This was too childish. Even the Southern Flame commander, who had gone through hundreds of battles, wasn't clear about Li Zhongjiu's background. However, since Li Zhongjiu had offended the Changbai medicine king, he wouldn't let him walk away so easily if Li Zhongjiu didn't show any ability. Good kid, you are really arrogant. However, I would like to see how good you are. 6 hours have passed. Let's go and see how effective our blood-calming decoction is. Medicine Master Changbai stood up and said. The commander of the Southern Flames tribe stood up and glanced at Li Zhongjiu as he spoke in a deep voice. Follow me. Li Zhongjiu followed these people into the inner courtyard. After passing through the screen, they entered the inner courtyard. There were more than 20 black-armored guards protecting the courtyard. At the same time, the roofs on both sides were occupied by archers. Even the slightest movement would not be able to reach the inner courtyard. It would be impossible to escape from the inner courtyard. There was an old man bowing at the door of the house in front of him. This old man looked weak, but he was the strongest person in the courtyard. The old man raised his head and saw the group. Commander, Medicine Master, Medicine Master. He greeted them one by one, but his gaze was mainly on Li Zhongjiu. Obviously, Li Zhongjiu's age had piqued the old man's interest. However, when he took a closer look at Li Zhongjiu, his gaze became sharp. Who is this? Elder Yuan, this is Li Zhongjiu. He's here to treat the general. Nan Yen hurriedly said. Although Elder Yuan did not have any official position, his status and identity were higher than theirs. More importantly, this old man was a true top expert. If it wasn't for this old man's intervention that day, the general would have already died. If so, please. Elder Yuan nodded at Li Zhongjiu. After a greeting, he gently pushed the door open. He led the 5 people in, while Feng Qingyu and the others stayed outside to be on guard. At this time, most of the things in the house had been removed. There were a total of 6 buckets of medicinal liquid placed in the surroundings. Under these medicinal liquid, a small fire was used to refine it. At the same time, a yuan inscription array was set up to condense the medicinal liquid. Finally, it landed on the figure lying on the warm jade. The person lying on the warm jade bed was not outstanding. He looked like an ordinary old man. His body was not burly, but thin. His hair was white and there was a green dragon ring on the ring finger of his right hand. Although the old man was lying quietly on the warm jade bed. However, it would occasionally give others the feeling that it was a sleeping dragon lying on top of the warm jade. However, the aura all over its body was still brewing and had not weakened at all. If he awakened, he would definitely be a dragon soaring to the 9 heavens. It was the powerful Yuan inscription formation of the old man that ensured his survival. It seems that the blood-calming soup is effective. Old General's complexion has recovered a lot. Medicine Master Changbai said with a smile. Chapter 262. Little friend, what do you think of my blood-suppressing soup? Combining the medicinal ingredients with the Yuan inscription formation required a very unique vision and experience to be able to do so. Even Li Zongjiu couldn't help but nod his head. Not bad, because the effect of your blood-suppressing soup did indeed have a life-saving effect. The Changbai Medicine King was proud, but he couldn't help but find it a little funny. He was a medicine king, but he actually had to listen to this little guy's guidance. Listening to this little guy's praise was meaningless to him. But the effect is very small. If it wasn't for the old city lord's powerful Yuan Qi, your blood-suppressing soup wouldn't have had any effect. Li Zongjiu quickly said. This little bit of blood-suppressing soup didn't have any obvious effect on the injured old man. The Changbai Medicine King also knew, but the effect of the blood-suppressing soup was gradual. The effect wasn't obvious at the beginning, but it was better than nothing. Being exposed by Li Zongjiu in front of everyone, the Changbai Medicine King's face was a little embarrassed. But Li Zongjiu didn't plan to stop and debate with this person. I'm going to treat the city lord. You guys stay by my side and protect me. If I don't stop, no one is allowed to disturb me. At this moment, even Nan Yen couldn't help but listen to Li Zongjiu's words subconsciously. Experts at their level were naturally incomparably firm in their will. Once they were influenced by someone, the other party had to be an expert as well. But the person in front of them was giving them orders. It was actually such a young man. They felt it was inconceivable. But Li Zongjiu didn't care about these people's shock and surprise. Instead, he directly went to the warm jade bed. The power in his hand moved slightly. Immediately, a terrifying power surged out. The obsidian flame appeared in his palm. The old man was seriously injured. Coupled with the existence of the poison, it was the main reason why he was unconscious. If he wanted to wake him up, he had to expel the poison. The process was the same as Gu Xuanwu. It was just as simple. Although the method was simple and direct, it would depend on the specific situation to analyze it when it was applied to a person. The strength of this old man was very strong and might even be close to that of a Yuan monarch. If Li Zongjiu was not careful, then it was very likely that he would be injured by the other party's protective origin energy. Martialists who were about to reach the Yuan monarch realm had terrifying amounts of Yuan Qi in their bodies. Elder Yuan, look, Nan Yen looked at Old Yuan, who was beside him. Old Yuan was also frowning. There was a strange feeling coming from Li Zongjiu. It was as if Li Zongjiu was a top expert. Only those who had reached a certain realm could have such a temperament. Invisible confidence and power. Although Li Zongjiu might not be very strong, Li Zongjiu's strength might not be that strong. However, as long as Li Zongjiu was given enough time, he might become a super powerhouse in the future. This was a young man full of potential. Let's take a look first. Old Yuan said. Given the general's cultivation base, even if there is a problem, this kid will probably die. The old general's current situation could be said to be very dangerous. Logically speaking, Li Zongjiu should not be able to get close to the old general. At the very least, Li Zongjiu would have to perform well in order to get close to the old general. However, Li Zongjiu's temperament made them believe in him. Old Yuan's level and cultivation base were higher than theirs. Since Old Yuan had spoken, it proved that he was capable enough to make Li Zongjiu behave himself. I would like to see what tricks this kid has up his sleeves. The Changbai Medicine King was very unhappy. From the very beginning, Li Zhongjiu had not seemed to take him seriously and had not spoken much. Even the few sentences he had said had felt like he was giving pointers to a junior. This kid couldn't have gotten it wrong, right? Who is the real senior here? Don't get it wrong. If you want to give pointers, I should be the one giving pointers to you. However, the Changbai Medicine King also knew that the old general's condition was very tricky. Without a certain level of strength, it was impossible to deal with it. As for who had this kind of strength, the Changbai Medicine King did not know, but it was definitely not Li Zhongjiu in front of him. This Li Zhongjiu wanted to use this kind of method to show off. After all, if he was not careful, he would die here. Injuries on top of injuries, no wonder it's so serious. Li Zhongjiu could not help but look at the old general's condition. At first, he thought that it was not that serious, but after being in contact with the old general for some time, he knew how serious the old general's condition was. It could be said that as long as there was an organization, there would be injuries. Some of the old injuries were the kind that were left over from more than 10 years ago. This kind of injury should not have been a problem if it was treated a little when he was young. However, this guy relied on his tyrannical strength to forcefully suppress these injuries and preserve them in his body. Now that he was stabbed in the back and injected with poison, it directly caused these injuries to erupt in an instant. This poison is just an ordinary 5-step soaring snake powder, it's not that powerful. Li Zhongjiu first used the obsidian fire to directly burn the poison out of his body. Powerful mental energy spread out and directly arranged around Li Zhongjiu. Then, he placed the old man inside as well. Feeling the appearance of Li Zhongjiu's mental energy, old Yuan's gaze also began to change. Such a strong mental energy. The Changbai Medicine King had also done some research in this area, and he himself also had mental energy, but after feeling Li Zhongjiu's mental energy, he deeply sighed. This Li Zhongjiu's mental energy was like a vast spring. In the eyes of the Changbai Medicine King, this mental energy was already extremely tyrannical. Inside the house, the group could be said to be watching an amazing treatment process. This kind of treatment was extremely rough and extremely direct. After all, there was nothing special in this process. However, there were not many people in the world who could do it as skillfully as Li Zhongjiu. Feng Qingyu, who was standing outside the house, was extremely nervous and regretful. This time, she was really too impulsive. How could he recommend this guy with an unknown background to him? Mainly because she knew that Li Zhongjiu's strength was a little strange, otherwise, he would not have been able to defeat her so easily. However, this was related to the danger of the general's life, she was really too impulsive. If something happened to the general, even if she killed Li Zhongjiu, it would not help. The general would not be able to come back to life. No, I have to find this guy. At most, I will be punished. Feng Qingyu thought. When she turned around and wanted to go in, she held back. What if this Li Zhongjiu really had a way? If he succeeded, it would be an opportunity for the general. As for this guy, he could consider himself lucky. If this Li Zhongjiu was just a person who wanted to fish in troubled waters, he should have been kicked out by now. There has been no other movement for so long, this is too strange. Feng Qingyu thought. Perhaps this Li Zhongjiu could really cure the general. This was indeed hard to say. Let's wait and see, Feng Qingyu thought in her heart. In the blink of an eye, 10 hours had passed. Feng Qingyu had been thinking about it all this while. Finally, the tightly shut door was pushed open. A group of people walked out of the house. Feng Qingyu also saw the most shocking scene in her life. She saw Old Yuan and the Southern Flames commander leading the way for Li Zhongjiu. The 3 old men beside them had a flattering look on their faces as they followed behind Li Zhongjiu like his followers. Master Li, the medicine is able to cure the illness and bring the dying back to life. This is simply amazing. Dingquan Province's #1 pharmacist, he deserves the title. Bringing the dying back to life, the god of medicine. Chapter 263. Feng Qingyu was impressed by the flattery of these pharmacists. One should know that when these people first came to Thousand Horse City, they all had arrogant expressions on their faces. When had he ever seen these people show such a humble attitude? Li Zongjiu, who was walking in the middle, was also indifferent. He did not take these people's flattery seriously. Commander, the general, Feng Qingyu could not help but come to Nan Yan's side. Nan Yan was in a good mood as he patted Feng Qingyu's shoulder. You have done a great service this time. Brother Li is a miracle doctor. Not only is the general's poison cured, but his injuries are also all healed. The general will be able to wake up at night. Changbai Medicine King could not help but say. In fact, the general was already awake. However, because of the injuries that he had suffered over the years, he would need some time to recuperate after being cured. Now, the general's body was in the process of recovery. What they needed to do was to not disturb him and give him a quiet environment while waiting for the general's body to heal itself. This was why Nan Yan was so happy. As a Yuan Qi expert, although he did not know how to treat illnesses, it was not a problem for him to check on the condition of the general's body. Moreover, Changbai Medicine King and the others were right beside him. If there was any problem, they would be able to discover it at a glance. When they were in the room, they were already amazed by Li Zongjiu's medical skills. Such strength was simply too shocking. No one would have thought that such a young person would have such capabilities. Changbai Medicine King finally believed that Li Zongjiu was someone who had the ability to talk about him. He even remembered some of the things that Li Zongjiu had said about him. Indeed, he had the ability to guide him. Feng Qingyu stammered. He originally thought that Li Zongjiu would get into trouble. However, it seemed that not only did Li Zongjiu not get into trouble, but he had also cured the general. Thinking back to the battle at the city gate, Feng Qingyu began to understand the situation. Li Zongjiu's strength was actually far above hers. It was just that he didn't show it. This kid was clearly only at the origin general realm. How could he be so capable? But now, it seemed that it was impossible to kill Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu cured the general, so he naturally became the great benefactor of Thousand Horse City. Let's cut to the chase. Can we talk about the reward now? Li Zongjiu said. His words were also very straightforward. I am not here to save people for nothing. Moreover, I can save this person and bring his life back, but I also have the ability to take his life away. He was just that domineering. Asking for a little reward was naturally not too much. At this time, no matter what Li Zongjiu asked for, Nan Yan didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. After all, Li Zongjiu had saved the old general and had already become a guest of honor in Thousand Horse City. With just this favor, it didn't matter what request Li Zongjiu had. Even if Li Zongjiu wanted to go out and become a city lord, there were ways to help him get it. I thought you were some kind of chivalrous person. It turns out that you are just a money grubber. Feng Qingyu's opinion of Li Zongjiu had just improved, but when she saw that Li Zongjiu had finally revealed his true colors, she despised him even more. What miraculous hands that could bring people back to life. That was all. He was just a petty businessman. Of course it's not a problem. Master Li, this way please. Gentlemen, please rest in the side hall. I will get someone to prepare some wine and dishes, no problem, no problem. Commander, please go ahead. Even now, Medicine King Changbai and the others didn't mind at all. It could be seen that in the room, Li Zongjiu had shocked them. Otherwise, they would have turned around and left after receiving such treatment. Why would they want to stay for a meal before leaving? Feng Qingyu naturally came to entertain these old Medicine Kings. Mr. Medicine King, do we still need to look for the medicinal herbs? Feng Qingyu stepped forward and asked. No need, no need. Since Master Li has already taken action and completely cured the general's condition, there is no need to use the supplementary medicinal herbs. Every medicine has a side effect. Taking too much of it will not be good for the body. Medicine King Changbai waved his hand repeatedly. Feng Qingyu could see that in the eyes of Medicine King Changbai, there was incomparable worship and admiration for Li Zongjiu. Is he really that godly? Could it be that he has hypnotized them? Feng Qingyu muttered in her heart. Only Elder Yuan was left behind to guard the room. At this moment, the worry between Elder Yuan's eyebrows had dissipated a lot. It could even be said that it could not be seen for the time being. However, in the next moment, there was a trace of killing intent in Elder Yuan's eyes. Since he had the guts to do such a thing, then no matter who was behind this, he must pay the price. Now that the general had recovered, it was a good thing. Otherwise, the world would be in chaos. Elder Yuan did not know the purpose of the person behind this for the time being. However, there were not many people in the world who could sneak into Thousand Horse City and escape unscathed. Therefore, it was not troublesome to find them. Li Zongjiu and Nan Yen walked into the study room. Master Li has saved the life of Thousand Horse City. No matter what Master Li needs, there is no harm in saying it. Nan Yen handed a cup of tea to Li Zongjiu. I wonder if Commander has heard of Qingyuan Villa. Li Zongjiu said. Qingyuan Villa. Who in Jianghu did not know about the existence of this force? Perhaps some people in the palace did not know about it, but how could they, who mingled outside, not know about the name behind Qingyuan Villa? To be able to use this name already showed that it was not ordinary. You want me to help you deal with Qingyuan Villa? Nan Yen suddenly frowned. The person behind Qingyuan Villa was King Qingyuan. Although King Qingyuan had a rebellious intention recently, as long as he did not show it, he was still the king of the Shengyan dynasty. Although their Thousand Horse City was special and their strength was not weak, it was naturally inappropriate to deal with a king. Dealing with Qingyuan Villa was basically no different from dealing with King Qingyuan. If King Qingyuan directly announced that he was rebelling, then it was not impossible to intervene in this matter. I will deal with Qingyuan Villa. However, I have recently killed some people from Qingyuan Villa. I would like to invite Thousand Horse City to protect my Wuxia city. Li Zongjiu said. Deal with Qingyuan Villa. Nan Yen did not mishear. Li Zongjiu's words were really beyond his expectation. He did not expect that Li Zongjiu would say this. Originally, if Li Zongjiu had a grudge against Qingyuan Villa, it would be because Li Zongjiu had saved their old general. If he went to mediate, he believed that Qingyuan Villa would most likely give him face. After all, their general's status was not the slightest bit inferior. If they really fought, it was not certain who would win and who would lose. However, Li Zongjiu actually wanted to deal with Qingyuan Villa personally. Could it be that this was a mistake? However, looking at Li Zongjiu's expression, it did not seem like he was joking. He was very serious. Wuxia City is Master Li's hometown. Although it is not good for us to deal with Qingyuan Villa directly, it is naturally not a problem to protect a city. Leave it to me. Nan Yen naturally knew what Li Zongjiu's concern was. He had the ability to fight with Qingyuan Villa for a long time, but it was inevitable that Qingyuan Villa would do something shameless. Massacring a small city like Wuxia City was something that they could do in one fell swoop. With the strength of Thousand Horse City, they had enough prestige to directly suppress some potential threats. However, what kind of unresolvable enmity did Li Zongjiu have with Qingyuan Villa? But, Master Li, Qingyuan Villa's strength is not simple. If there is no misunderstanding, I can ask the general to step in, no need. It will not be long before you are involved. You should know the purpose of Qingyuan Villa better than me. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame them for making the first move. Li Zongjiu said. Then, he glanced at Nan Yen in front of him. Now that you have agreed, if anything happens to Wuxia City in the future, I will not let you go, nor will I let Thousand Horse City go. Chapter 264. Nan Yen was stunned when he heard what Li Zongjiu said. At this moment, the aura that was released from Li Zongjiu's body was quite strong. This was a feeling that only a top-notch powerhouse could give him when he spoke. At this moment it was as if the person sitting beside Nan Yen was not a teenager, but an expert who had the ability to determine one's cultivation. Other things could be faked and acted, but this temperament was not so easy to fake. Since Li Zongjiu dared to come and warn the people of Thousand Horse City, it was enough to see that his courage was not simple. If things went wrong, Nan Yen would fall out with him. What else could he do? However, Nan Yen was a soldier after all, so he would do what he said. Master Li, rest assured. If anything happens to Wuxia City, I will hand over my head. Well, then I will take my leave. Send my regards to the general. Li Zongjiu said. The general of Thousand Horse City had a prominent military record, but later retired here. When Li Zongjiu became famous in his previous life, the old general had already passed away. Moreover, he had an inseparable relationship with this assassination. This time, Li Zongjiu did not want to change the fate of these people. It was just that it involved his own interests, so he wanted to make use of it. However, at this moment, Thousand Horse City could be considered as a guarantee for Li Zongjiu. I will leave now. Why don't you stay for a meal? After a while, when the general wakes up, he can personally thank you. Nan Yen was also surprised. Who knew how many people wanted to befriend him? If the general knew that it was Li Zongjiu who saved him, he would definitely thank Li Zongjiu. This was something that many people dreamed of. In the future, who would dare to bully him in the Shengyan dynasty? Just this relationship alone was enough to make many people fearful of him. However, Li Zongjiu was actually in a hurry to leave. It seemed that he came here to save people. This really surprised Nan Yen. He was even more confused. I still have something to do. Li Zongjiu said lightly. Over the past few days, he had been delayed here and there. It had already delayed Li Zongjiu a lot of things. It was said that the examination was very complicated. Li Zongjiu also needed to arrive early and make some preparations. Otherwise, if he missed this year's enrollment, he would have to wait for another year. The key point was, the universe 9 revolving needles that he had promised alchemist Nan Sheng was also in this heavenly star medicine manor. Therefore, Li Zongjiu needed to enter this heavenly star medicine manor immediately. Then I'll send you off. Nan Yen was very fond of Li Zongjiu's temperament. After all, Li Zongjiu was not a hypocrite. He would speak his mind and speak his mind. Nan Yen liked his straightforward character. If everyone was like him, he would speak his mind. If he couldn't do it, then forget it. Then, the world would be much simpler. In front of the city gate, Nan Yen also brought a red horse. It was taller than an ordinary horse by a head. The muscle lines on its body were also unusually beautiful and strong. The horsetail was also full of strength. At first glance, one could tell that it was a precious horse. Our Thousand Horse City is famous for horses. Naturally, we have to have some real skills. This horse is our Thousand Horse City's best horse. It can travel 2,000 miles in a day. No matter where it goes, it will be more convenient. Moreover, it has our Thousand Horse City's horse plate. Ordinary thieves will not dare to block its way. Nan Yen said. He gestured to the horse's neck that had a plate hanging on it. Anyone who rode a horse from Thousand Horse City wouldn't dare to block the road. Even if it was a bandit, when they saw the horse plate, they could only turn around and leave. Who would dare to touch the people of Thousand Horse City? Were they tired of living? Alright, thank you very much. Li Zongjiu did not refuse. When his horse entered the forest, he directly let it go. He originally wanted to go to a nearby city to exchange for another horse. However, now that he had this horse, it was naturally more convenient. Am I seeing things? The commander is actually personally seeing this guy off. Who exactly is this person? Could he be a prince? This is too embarrassing. Just a moment ago, we were thinking of killing him. When He Chai and Shan Feng saw the scene before them, they could not help but feel a deep sense of awe. In the city, the commander was second only to one person. He had absolute authority and authority. Even if the city lord or the sect leader of a sect were to come, they would still have to wait at the entrance. The commander nodded his head and allowed the person to come in for a meeting. Moreover, not everyone could meet him. Some people didn't even have the qualifications to meet them. Li Zongjiu had only been in the forest for half a day. Unexpectedly, the commander came out and personally saw him off. Isn't that our blood-maned horse? 1,000 Horse City only has 20 of these horses. Even Deputy Commander Qin Yu didn't get one when she wanted it. Is this guy here to buy a horse? They watched as Li Zongjiu led the blood-maned horse away. Needless to say, the hearts of these horse lovers were filled with heartache. This was the same as taking their lives. This horse was precious. Most importantly, it had a pure bloodline. It was very rare to find a horse with such a pure bloodline. Even in front of some high-level meta beasts, this blood-maned horse could still run as if it was flying. It could even defend against enemies. Such a divine animal was led away by Li Zongjiu just like that. If it were to be sold in the market, it would fetch a price of at least 3 million gold coins. Such a precious item was given to Li Zongjiu in such a dubious manner. Li Zongjiu flipped over and landed on the blood-maned horse. He patted the horse's back and the horse let out a neigh. Let's go. Immediately, the blood-maned horse rushed out like an arrow. It felt like returning to nature. This unscrupulous gallop took Li Zongjiu and disappeared from the sight of the people of 1,000 Horse City in the blink of an eye. He can actually subdue this blood-maned horse without making a sound. This person is a natural king. Nan Yen thought in his heart as he watched Li Zongjiu disappear before his eyes. He turned around and left as well. Feng Qinyu also sent someone to find him. The general woke up. After hearing the news, Nan Yen immediately rushed back to the general's mansion. Why is everyone in such a hurry today? He Chai scratched his head. But soon, the people of 1,000 Horse City heard a piece of good news. That was, their beloved city lord had woken up. The specific situation wasn't revealed for the time being, but when they heard the news, they jumped up and applauded. General's mansion. When Feng Qinyu heard that Li Zongjiu had left, her eyes widened. She immediately opened her eyes wide. Why did this guy run away so quickly? Is he afraid that I will take revenge on him? Feng Qinyu was a little angry. Most importantly, this guy didn't even say goodbye to her before leaving. One should know that if she did not vouch for Li Zongjiu, the commander would not have let him get close to the general so easily. After such a thing happened, the general needed to be well protected. At such a sensitive time, he would not trust an unknown person. You better not let me see you again. Feng Qinyu could not help but clench her fists. At this moment, she wanted to punch Li Zongjiu in the face. Fortunately, he had cured the general. Otherwise, he would have been skinned alive. He would have been dried alive. Chapter 265. Black North Mega City. As a second-class city in Dingquan Province, it was very popular. Many consortiums and merchants were staying here. The competition in such a place was very intense. Some families wanted to take their businesses into the city. However, they would not be able to hold on for long before they were swallowed up by some forces in the city. The competition was too strong. Once there were more people, there would be more scammers. If one was not careful and did not have a backer, he would lose both his wealth and life in the city. It would be difficult for him to do anything. Even if he had a backer, he would need a strong enough backer. Otherwise, he would not be able to hold on. There were countless families, big and small. In the Black North mega city, it was mainly two big business alliances and one big medicine alliance that controlled the situation. However, even these two big business alliances could only control half of the city. The other places were under the joint control of the 5 big families. There were a total of 8 forces that could be counted. There were also many who were pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. The judicial and regulatory departments of more than 10 dynasties. However, there were more youthful and lively auras on the streets recently. It was no longer the aura of fame and fortune. On the Academy Street, all the big academies were also open for enrollment. All the big sects were also recruiting. In order to prevent students from being too biased, the Imperial Martial Pavilion and Heavenly Day Medicine Manor were also staggered in their enrollment. For example, if Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was recruiting now, Imperial Martial Pavilion would be recruiting next month. This actually gave the candidates many opportunities. For example, if Heavenly Day Medicine Manor could not get in, they could consider Imperial Martial Pavilion. This was very humane. After all, no one wanted to miss out on the nurturing of talents. One must know that talents were the most precious thing. They had to grab hold of them. Within 100,000 miles of the Black North mega city, there were more than 20 third-class cities. The candidates from the nearby third-class cities would also gather here. Therefore, there were all kinds of people in the Black North mega city during these days. It seemed to be this lively all year round. The businesses of the candidates were also gradually opened up and never stopped. First of all, the candidates were staying here. The forces of the academies that were recruiting would not be responsible for such things. When Li Zongjie walked into the Black North mega city, he was immediately surrounded by a group of people. "Brother, do you need a place to stay? You must be here to take the exam. Stay at our place. It's only 500 meters away from Academy Street. It's surrounded by delicious food and scenic spots. We have everything you need. 2 blocks away is Fragrance Courtyard. You know what I mean. Little brother, come to our place. Our inn has a pleasant scenery and plenty of light. We also have a 200 square meter lake that was dug by hand and has a small bridge over flowing water. It's the best place for a chance encounter." Li Zongjie waved his hand and said, "Everyone has their own way of selling their products." He pulled the blood-maned horse through. These people were really like blood-sucking bats, staring at the new customers. Once you were targeted by these people, you would be brought to some so-called place with mountains and rivers on one side. Then, you would know that any stinking ditch would become a fairy lake in their mouths. Moreover, the asking price was very black-hearted. This was also the reason why Li Zongjie was unwilling to deal with these people. These people could also see that the blood-maned horse that Li Zongjie was leading had an extraordinary aura. Obviously, this Li Zongjie was not a simple person. Otherwise, they would not have chased him from one end of the street to the other end of the street and kept promoting these things. After all, if they managed to get ahead, they would be rewarded handsomely. Academy Street was not that hard to find. Li Zongjie first led the red-maned horse to an inn. The cost of a night in such an inn was at least 1,000 gold coins. It could be considered luxurious. To Li Zongjie, who was worth more than 1 billion, this amount of money was not difficult. Even if he did not have any cash or savings on him, there were still many things that could be used as payment. Uli Inn. Those who could stay in such an inn were mostly children of high officials and nobles. "Sir, please come in, bring my horse down and feed it well," Li Zongjie said. Along the way, the red-maned horse had displayed its prowess. It did not even pant as it galloped. When it encountered a wide cliff or river, it would directly leap over it. If not for Li Zongjie's good skills and experience, he would have been frightened by the red-maned horse's actions. Along the way, the red-maned horse carried the 1,000-horse city's horse tag. It was really unobstructed. Along the way, no one dared to stop Li Zongjiu. Everyone who saw the red-maned horse from afar had already turned and retreated. This situation also gave Li Zongjiu a lot more time. He arrived at the Black North Giant City a few days earlier than expected. Okay. When the waiter saw the red-maned horse, he naturally knew that it was not ordinary. After mingling in the Black North Giant City for so long, he still had this bit of eyesight. He was afraid that Li Zongjiu was not a simple person. Because this horse actually came from 1,000-horse city. The horses of 1,000-horse city were of pure blood and high quality. Usually, only those with extremely noble status could get their hands on them. If one did not have any connections, it was absolutely impossible to get a horse from 1,000-horse city. Although Li Zongjiu did not seem to have anything special, the waiter had already given the shopkeeper a hint. The shopkeeper also met Li Zongjiu inside. "Give me the best room," Li Zongjiu said. Directly asking for a good room could also reduce and avoid a lot of trouble, such as harassment from some people and so on. When he heard Li Zongjiu's words, the shopkeeper's eyes suddenly lit up. "Okay, our supreme suite costs 88,000 per night. May I ask how many nights would you like to stay?" A supreme suite. It seemed that no matter where Li Zongjiu went in his previous life, he would stay in such a room. Sometimes, he would directly buy a house nearby. If he stayed for a few nights, the price would already be comparable to a house. "I'll stay here first." Li Zongjiu took out 100,000 gold coin banknotes and placed them on the table. "Shopkeeper, prepare a supreme suite for our young master." The shopkeeper was counting Li Zongjiu's money when he heard that someone wanted a supreme suite. His face immediately revealed a difficult expression. "This guest, the last supreme suite has already been reserved by this guest. However, our happy arrival inn still has 2 top-quality garden rooms, the price is 66,000. Before the shopkeeper could finish speaking, a voice rang out from behind him. Before he could finish speaking, he saw the old man walking forward. With a bang, a 1 million gold coin banknote was placed on the table. "What a joke. Do you know what kind of person our young master is? How dare you make our Yu-Lai-in look inferior? Believe it or not, I'll make sure your Yu-Lai-in can't continue operating." The old man held his head high. The shopkeeper also looked at the young man behind the old man, who was being served by 2 maids wholeheartedly. His age was about the same as Li Zongjiu's. However, the treatment was completely different. "I'm really sorry. This room has already been booked by this young master. If you don't like it, you can go to the Yunlai Inn across the street to take a look." The shopkeeper was still smiling apologetically. From the extent to which this young master was wearing gold and silver, it seemed that he was not to be trifled with. However, this kind of person was most likely a good-for-nothing. If he wanted to join these sects, he was probably here to get in through the back door. Since the Yu-Lai Inn opened its doors to do business, there was no reason for them to offend their customers. Every year, they would encounter these arrogant and domineering young masters who would fly into a rage if they did not get what they wanted. They had seen this kind of thing many times. They handled it very skillfully. Then, he handed the key in his hand to Li Zongjiu, who was waiting in front of him. "My apologies, dear guest, for making you wait for so long. Here is your key." Li Zongjiu took the key and turned to leave. There was already a waiter waiting to guide Li Zongjiu to the room. "Stop!" The old man directly shouted at Li Zongjiu. "Kid, our young master is offering 3 million for your room." Chapter 266. Li Zongjiu had only paid a total of 1 million gold coins, which was 3 million gold coins. However, he could earn so much just by reselling the room. This was already comparable to the farm work of an ordinary person for their entire life. However, Li Zhongjiu had no concept of money. After the old man finished speaking, Li Zhongjiu turned to the waiter and said, "Continue leading the way." He completely ignored the old man's words. When the old man saw that Li Zhongjiu was ignoring him and was about to leave, he was instantly enraged and charged at Li Zhongjiu. "Stop right there. How dare you ignore me?" If he couldn't get this room today, not only would he be finished, but his young master would also be humiliated. In the end, he wouldn't have a good ending either. Immediately, the old man's yuan energy vibrated. He was about to attack and kill Li Zhongjiu. However, Li Zhongjiu ignored him, as if he didn't see him at all. Boom! A burly figure blocked the old man's path. He directly blocked the old man's attack. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and glared at the old man in front of him with his bell-like eyes. The old man's palm had landed on him, but it hadn't caused any damage. This was enough to show his strength. "Dear guest, this inn has its rules. If you dare break the rules, you'll be tarnishing our reputation. If you don't want to stay, please leave." The inn manager sneered as he stared at the old man. "You actually want to cause trouble in our happy arrival inn? Do you think this is a small city? In the Black North mega city, everything is regulated. You can't do as you please. If you don't put our happy arrival inn in your eyes and want to tarnish their reputation, the inn won't let you off easily." To be able to open an inn in such a big city, one had to have the strength to guard the place. The old man was aggressive, but the person in front of him was obviously not to be trifled with. If the young master had no place to stay tonight, then wouldn't he, as the butler, lose face? "All right, old ma, let's go. I'll remember that kid." This young master was straightforward and did not continue to provoke him. He stood up and left. Before the old man left, he glared at the shopkeeper, "Just you wait. Young master, wait for me. Be careful." The shopkeeper of the Pleasant Arrival Inn couldn't help but smile when he saw this scene. These people from third-grade cities thought that the Black North giant city was the same as their city. In fact, everything in this city was even more perfect. All the rules and regulations were implemented very strictly. Even if it was a street brawl, there would still be people who would arrest you directly and send you to the city management office. The city management office was an organization responsible for maintaining the daily operations of the city. It was directly under the city lord's mansion. They were in charge of everything, big or small, from fights to exterminating entire families. The various departments with different functions were also in an orderly manner. Although the competition between everyone was very intense, bloodshed was still very rare. After all, there was a minefield that absolutely could not be crossed in such a city. That was contempt for the laws of the land. Once contempt for the laws of the land was committed, one's entire family would be exterminated. The Shengyan dynasty focused on second-grade and first-grade cities. In such a place, there were many experts and powerhouses. Therefore, the laws of the land were more effective. No one could easily break the law and not be punished. However, the feeling of a third-class city was like that of a free-range breeding. This allowed the city lords to stand on their own feet. However, in reality, it was extremely difficult to find a Sky Origin Ancestor-level expert in a third-grade city. Even the number of Origin-level powerhouses was very limited. To the dynasty, this was nothing at all. For example, Northern Medicine City would definitely not let Zhang Yu be the city lord. It was obviously a waste of resources. If the dynasty wanted to govern Northern Medicine City, they could just send a few Ancestor Origin-level special envoys to settle it. Li Zhongjiu, on the other hand, successfully checked into the Supreme Suite. This was the reason why Li Zhongjiu chose the most expensive one. If something similar to what happened just now happened, the inn would personally come forward to solve it. Even if it had to pay the price of the entire inn, the matter would still be resolved. They would not let the customers face such matters. They had to protect the interests of the customers. After checking in, Li Zhongjiu also took a shower and changed into a clean set of clothes. These days, he was travel-worn. He had been running for almost 3 days. He directly arrived at Northern Black Mega City. I should be able to find dark attributed crystals in the crystal shops in Northern Black Mega City. Li Zhongjiu wanted to search for dark attributed crystals in the nearby primeval forests. However, it was not smooth. Dark attributed meta-beasts were rare. Among the various types of meta-beasts, these meta-beasts were the most difficult to hunt. It was not easy to obtain them. However, one could buy them. With money, everything became simple. Even if I go to the registration place now, it would probably be closed. I'll go tomorrow. I'll walk around the city tonight. It's best if I can find dark attributed crystals. Li Zhongjiu thought. Staying in the Supreme Suite, one could enjoy many services. For example, the 3 meals were free. One could eat whatever one wanted. Thousand Horse City. Behind the layers of trees was the mysterious and narrow Thousand Horse City. The general's recovery also brought vitality to Thousand Horse City. General, we've investigated clearly. The assassin is Plum Blossom Ghost, a gold medal assassin from Hidden Flower. Nan Yen said in a deep voice. It doesn't matter who did it. Since we've come into contact with Hidden Flower, we won't have a chance to find out who's behind this. An old man in green clothes said. The green dragon ring on his finger also showed his identity. He was the city lord of Thousand Horse City. To the outside world, he was the city lord. However, to his subordinates in the city, he was a general. How dare Hidden Flower accept such an order? General, we must make them pay the price. Otherwise, they will become even worse. Feng Qingyu said coldly. Born in the army, she naturally developed a ruthless temperament. These people were simply provoking the Almighty. If they didn't fight back, wouldn't these people be even more lawless in the future? That was why Feng Qingyu was so angry. Let's wait for a while. Oh right, is Nantian Elixir King arriving soon? The old general waved his hand. The older he got, the more indifferent he became to fighting and killing. However, these days, as his injuries recovered, the old general seemed to have gradually raised his fighting spirit. Some ancient books that he had never read before were also dug out one by one. After knowing Li Zhongjiu's request, he immediately gave an order. 3 whole teams were mobilized, and 2 vice commanders were sent to oversee the situation. They trained the soldiers around Wuxia City. They had to ensure the safety of Wuxia City. This time, they had failed to capture Li Zhongjiu. This caused the commander of the Southern Flames Army to be severely criticized. On the contrary, Feng Qingyu, who recommended him, received a lot of praise. This made Nan Yen extremely depressed. Feng Qingyu unknowingly picked up a big bargain. She did not expect Li Zhongjiu to be so capable. According to the schedule, he will arrive tomorrow morning. Good. Prepare the herbs I mentioned before. Since he is here, he will not leave empty-handed. Let him refine the elixir for me before he leaves. The old general's mouth revealed a trace of conspiracy and dominance. His skills were honed from the battlefield. If one wanted to take advantage of him, he must be prepared to have his hand chopped off. But general, what you need to prepare is not a healing elixir, but an elixir that can strengthen one's cultivation, yes. Do you have a problem with that? I dare not. Chapter 267. Black North Colossal City, Golden Brocade Tower. Someone had booked the entire floor of the Golden Brocade Tower to host a party. They had invited a group of singers and dancers to perform. They had also invited many disciples from wealthy families. At the same time, there were also some famous people from some small cities. This gathering was also called the Fellowship Gathering. It was a very good and rare opportunity for the future heirs of the major forces to negotiate with each other. Those who were qualified to come here were not simple people. At the very least, their family background had to be worth more than 10 billion to be qualified to enter. The organizer of this Golden Brocade Tower gathering was the eldest son of the Bei family in Black North Colossal City. He was also the future successor of the Bei family. Bei Ho Liang. This person was only 23 years old, but he was also a student of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Many of the matters of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor in the city were also taken care of by the Bei family. It was also very good to have such ability. Before these young talents entered the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, they had to rope in some of them to become their own people. At the same time, they had to establish connections with these families. The scale of the Bei family's business was now mature, but it was impossible for it to remain unchanged. Moreover, Bei Ho Liang himself wanted to establish a business. He also needed to have his own team. It was impossible to directly take over from the top. Without one's own power, it would be very difficult to survive. Therefore, these disciples of the major families had long realized this point and organized this fellowship gathering. I still have to thank Brother Bei for your hospitality today. If it weren't for Brother Bei, it would have been extremely difficult for us to broaden our horizons like this. Surrounded by the crowd, a man was also happily responding to the flattery of the crowd. He had a humble look on his face. You're too kind. It's all thanks to you all for giving me face. Otherwise, my social gathering would have been completely ignored. That person was Bei Ho Liang. His back was straight and his eyes were like an eagle's. On the surface, he looked very refined. Although the robe he was wearing was low-key and plain, it was very expensive. Brother Bei, it seems like most of us have arrived. Why don't you tell us a little about the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's recruitment process? That's right, Brother Bei. You're a disciple of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. If we join Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, we'll have to rely on Brother Bei's care. Don't be anxious. This time, we still have one person who hasn't arrived yet. Let's wait for him, Bei Ho Liang said. His words shocked everyone. There was actually someone who could make Bei Ho Liang wait for him. Did this person have 3 heads and 6 arms? However, the mysterious veil of this person was quickly removed. A figure appeared at the door, and beside him were 2 beautiful and gentle maids. When some people saw this person, their eyes flickered. They never would have thought that it was actually this person. Although this person was relatively low-key, his reputation had already spread among these people for a long time. This person could be said to be a legend. Could this person be from Shueyao Spirit City? That genius? From the Water Jade Spirit City? That place can produce alchemy geniuses. It's rumored that this person is proficient in medicinal herbs. He can refine second-grade pills single-handedly. His skill is unfathomable. He's not even 17 years old, but he's already a 3rd-grade mid-grade alchemist. This kind of talent is beyond our reach. I didn't expect Brother Bei to invite such a person. I heard that the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's Earth Branch Vice Principal has the intention to accept this person as a disciple, someone said in a low voice. Only after hearing this sentence did everyone truly realize how terrifying the potential of the guy from the Water Jade Spiritual City was. There were 2 courtyards in Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. The Heavenly Gone Courtyard and the Earth Branch Courtyard. These 2 courtyards were also competing with each other. Only in this way could they improve faster. Otherwise, these people would be lazy and think that they don't need to work hard just because they have some talent. This kind of method was used to motivate each other. Therefore, the appearance of a genius was a very precious resource for them. They would be a good helper in the competition in the future. Since the Earth Branch Vice Principal had decided on this person so quickly, it should be because the Vice Principal deliberately spread the word. In fact, he still had to go through a selection process. However, the heavenly star medicine manor would not let such a genius slip away so easily. Therefore, this person should be an extremely popular commodity now. Hee, that's right. That's why I invited this person here today. You should make more friends with him. Beiho Liang's eyes flashed. There were many geniuses. However, if a genius was unwilling to obey, then it was very likely that he would disappear from this world unknowingly. If a genius could not be used by him, then it was very likely that he would become an enemy. How could Beiho Liang let such a situation happen so easily? If one had to say, this was indeed better than a hongmen banquet. Although everyone was laughing on the surface, in fact, they were also observing the surrounding situation and judging each other's strengths and weaknesses. Everyone, let's get to know each other. This is Zhang Hexuan from the Water Jade Spiritual City. Beiho Liang led everyone to the front of Zhang Hexuan. Zhang Hexuan also pushed aside the two maids beside him. In front of Beiho Liang, Zhang Hexuan did not dare to be too arrogant. He was the young master of the Bei family, one of the 5 great families in the Black North mega city. His status was unknown. Although the Water Jade Spiritual City and the Black North mega city were almost the same, the difference between their backgrounds was like heaven and earth. This time, the elders of the family had said that they must make friends with influential people. If they did not make friends with these people, with his talent, he would definitely become a thorn in their side. Therefore, they had to choose a strong person and make friends with them directly. This was what they were born to do. If the people of the lower class wanted to climb up, they had to rely on these methods. Therefore, Zhang Hexuan was very clear about his status. Perhaps one day, when his strength and influence surpassed Beiho Liang, he would be able to surpass him. However, now was not the time. Greetings, young Master Bei. Zhang Hexuan cupped his hands and said. Just call me Brother Liang. There's no need to be so distant. Today, we are all brothers here. Brother Liang. Beiho Liang was very satisfied when he heard this. He laughed and drank a cup of wine. Beiho Liang looked at Zhang Hexuan in front of him. He seemed to have a trace of worry on his face. He frowned and said. Brother Hexuan, what's the matter? Sigh, let's not talk about this matter. It's my fault that I didn't know the rules. Zhang Hexuan pretended to wave his hand. When he said this, Beiho Liang and the others stared at him. Rules? Tell me, who in this city has offended you? Since you are my brother, offending you is the same as offending me, Beiho Liang. Beiho Liang was immediately angry. If he could not even protect his brother, then what was the point of being the young master of the Bei family? Although he did not say this on the surface, this was the general meaning. I met someone in the Uli Inn. Zhang Hexuan immediately told him what happened this morning. Of course, during the process, he also added some details. Li Zongjiu became the person who occupied his room. The reason why he said this was to find a way out. He wanted Beiho Liang to do something for him and deliberately do him a favor. In this way, he could smoothly grow and stand on Beiho Liang's side. Otherwise, he could not become sworn brothers with Beiho Liang after meeting him today. This move, Zhang Hexuan also played it flawlessly, and Li Zongjiu was just a stepping stone. Li Zongjiu's death had already been decided. Even if he didn't die, he probably wouldn't be in a good state. Given Beiho Liang's strength, it would be very easy for him to kill a foreign kid in the Black North metropolis. Brother Hexuan, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Tomorrow, I will personally appear for you. The corners of Beiho Liang's mouth curled into a cold smile. Zhang Hexuan was very smart. After this matter was resolved, he would naturally pull Zhang Hexuan over. At the same time, the most important thing was to let Zhang Hexuan see his strength. Chapter 268. At night, Li Zongjiu returned to his room. He had only managed to buy a few level 1 yuan crystals. Of course, they were all dark attribute. Even the 3 dark attribute yuan crystals in his hands had almost emptied Li Zongjiu's savings. After returning to his room, Li Zongjiu placed the dark attribute yuan crystals in his hands and mobilized the black dragon origin spirit within his body. Immediately, a wave of dark attribute yuan qi gushed out of his body and absorbed the dark attribute yuan crystals. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the power of the dark attribute yuan crystals receded rapidly. In the end, only a pile of dregs was left in his hands. The other 2 crystals had suffered the same fate. The dark attribute yuan spirit wasn't satisfied. However, its hunger had weakened slightly. Li Zongjiu had a rough idea of what it needed to truly recover. It seems like I need a yuan monarch yuan crystal to awaken this fellow. Li Zongjiu thought to himself that this fellow was really greedy. It would be extremely dangerous to hunt a yuan monarch grade dark attribute yuan beast. Furthermore, it would take enough time for Li Zongjiu to become that powerful. As for buying it with money, just a yuan monarch yuan crystal alone was enough to bankrupt the entire Wuxia city. That kind of thing couldn't be bought with money, let alone a yuan monarch yuan crystal. Its value would be doubled from its original value. It seems like it will still take a lot of time to awaken you. However, these 3 great yuan spirits are enough for me to use for now. Ordinary people who possessed one innate yuan spirit would be able to cultivate for the rest of their lives. Li Zongjiu, on the other hand, had 4 natural primordial spirits. This was already the limit. If he wanted to unleash all of this power, it would not be so easy. Li Zongjiu adjusted his breathing and began to enter this endless state of cultivation. The blood dragon soul didn't need to be cultivated. Li Zongjiu's murderous aura was even stronger than the blood dragon sovereign's. Otherwise, how could he have killed him? However, the golden dragon soul and the white dragon soul needed to be continuously trained by himself. Currently, all of them could be used to strengthen their spiritual power. It was this boundless stone. Once my mind power reaches grade 4, I will be able to take out the boundless stone. When that happens, my cultivation speed will be even faster. Currently, Li Zongjiu's elemental energy cultivation was merely at the yuan general level. Such strength could be considered outstanding in places like Wuxia City or Northwater City. However, in the Black North metropolis, he was simply a child who had just learned how to cultivate. Perhaps, he would be judged as a person with mediocre talent. With such strength, in a place with so much competition, it was simply not worth paying attention to. Therefore, Li Zongjiu's elemental energy cultivation still needed to be strengthened. After a night of cultivation. In order not to miss the registration time, Li Zongjiu left early. He was going to find Academy Street and register for the Tianqin Medicine Manor. No matter what method he used, he had to enter the Tianqin Medicine Manor. Li Zongjiu had thought that he had arrived early enough. However, when he saw the long queue on Academy Street, he realized how late he was. He hadn't expected that the great evil lord of his previous life would actually have to queue here. This was simply an insult to him. Li Zongjiu felt indignant every time he thought of this. However, waiting for a while wasn't a big deal. Then, he would just have to wait. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also waited quietly in the queue. "Kid, go to the back." Seeing that it was almost his turn, Li Zongjiu had already waited for an entire morning. Suddenly, someone came to the side. When he saw the greasy body of the other party, he frowned. "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen someone cutting the queue? Hurry up and go to the back and queue again." When that person saw Li Zongjiu's dumbfounded look, he immediately bared his teeth. Li Zongjiu directly greeted the other party's face with a punch. Bang! Bang! The person fell to the ground quietly. Next. After hearing this, Li Zongjiu directly stepped on the person under his feet. Facing those who forcefully cut the queue, Li Zongjiu didn't hold back at all. This kind of thing had to be tolerated. Otherwise, these people would think that everything was so easy. Name: Li Zhongjiu. Place of birth: Dingquan Province, Wuxia City. Age: 17. Li Zhongjiu calculated. It should be around this age. This is your number plate. There is a task on your number plate. You have to complete it before tomorrow. Li Zhongjiu took the number plate from the other party. Number 1942. In other words, the number of people who signed up for this Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was close to 2,000. Task: This Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was really a pain in the ass. They carved such a small line of words on such a small wooden number plate. There was a task written on it. Prepare a bottle of wrong acid with a ratio of 1 in 10,000. What kind of task is this? Li Zhongjiu couldn't help but ask. What did you say? Li Zhongjiu's ridicule didn't go far. The old man in charge of registration heard it, but he didn't hear it clearly. Nothing. Li Zhongjiu said. If they heard this, they might directly cross off Li Zhongjiu's name. In that case, Li Zhongjiu would be completely disqualified. However, it had to be said that this task was relatively unpopular. As an alchemist, Li Zhongjiu obviously knew what it was. However, those who didn't have enough experience and foundation wouldn't know what wrong acid was at all. This was because there were very few opportunities to use it. It wasn't common. Even if one spent a day going to all the pharmacies in the entire Black North mega city, they probably wouldn't be able to buy it. One had to do it personally to complete it. In the first round, one could usually fake it because there was no one following them. Perhaps their task was relatively simple. Some experts or even some alchemists could complete it. However, this was only the first round. There was a real test waiting for them later on. Li Zhongjiu went to 2 pharmacies and prepared the required items. One of them was salamander poison, and the other was acid. The acid was a type of meta-beast saliva. Salamander poison was highly toxic. If used incorrectly, one would be poisoned and die suddenly. In less than 3 minutes, one would suffer from respiratory failure and be unable to become a legend. One would be suffocated to death. Acid had strong healing power and viscosity. It was used to suture wounds in an emergency on the battlefield. Not only could this wrong acid be used to suture wounds, but it also had a great healing effect on injuries. The problem was that it was very difficult to match the exact ratio. However, this wasn't a problem for Li Zhongjiu. Using his mental strength, he easily extracted a trace of salamander venom and fused it with the acid. Chapter 269. Done. Li Zhongjiu returned to the long queue with the prepared vermicelli acidic solution in hand. He was here to hand in his homework. The efficiency is really slow. Most of the time is wasted waiting in line. Li Zhongjiu couldn't help but complain when he saw the situation. After waiting in line for half a day, Li Zhongjiu finally arrived in front of the old man. My mission is complete. Li Zhongjiu placed the vermicelli acidic solution on the table. Oh. So fast. The old man was obviously surprised. Having a photographic memory was basically a normal ability. He was the one who gave Li Zhongjiu the number, so he knew that it would take at least a day to prepare the solution. Not only did it have to be done well, it had to be done accurately. This was the most important thing. If the amount of herbs used was too light or too heavy, it would cause problems, and even death. The old man opened the jar that Li Zhongjiu brought. After smelling it, he nodded. It is indeed 1 in 10,000. That's right. Give me your number. Then, the old man gave Li Zhongjiu a round plate. Number 437 was written on it. This is your number. The second round of the test will be held in 3 days at the Western City's herb forest. You just have to bring this number with you to report. Okay. 3 days later, at the western city's herb forest. Li Zongjiu noted it down. He looked at the sky and realized that it was almost dark. I've wasted a day here. He couldn't help but shake his head. However, in the Pleasant Arrival Inn, there were also people who were extremely angry. Motherfucker, where the hell is this brat hiding? One of Beiho Liang's subordinates couldn't help but say. They came early in the morning to block Li Zongjiu, but when they arrived, the waiter told them that he had already left. So, they decided to wait here. Beiho Liang, in order to promote his own reputation, had also found many people to ensure that nothing would go wrong. However, this group of people had an aggressive aura within the Pleasant Arrival Inn. He sat there for an entire day. As long as there were guests, they were all chased away. If it were anyone else, the Pleasant Arrival Inn's shopkeeper would have already sent people to chase them out. However, the person that was brought over was the Bei family's eldest young master, Beiho Liang. This kind of person was not someone they could easily provoke. Even the people behind the Pleasant Arrival Inn did not dare to forcibly contend against Beiho Liang. Thus, for the sake of settling this matter, they sat there and watched as Beiho Liang waited. He was even served good tea and water. This situation was much better than yesterday's situation. The old servant by Zhang Heshuan's side was even more arrogant than the day before. He looked coldly at the shopkeeper and the others who tried to stop them yesterday. At the same time, he sneered. Now these people know how powerful our young master is. Their Zhang family had struggled for so many decades with great difficulty, and only this kind of genius had appeared. Thus, this old servant was also very proud. Yesterday, he had been continuously bullied and chased away several times. This time, when Li Zongjiu returned, he would definitely let them know how powerful our young master is. Originally, this first group of people had only come to stop them and trap them. Otherwise, they would capture them and bring them to Beiho Liang and the others. However, after waiting for a long time and not seeing anyone arrive, they came personally. This was also to give this Sun Crane some face. They wanted to tell these people that this Sun Crane was already standing on Beiho Liang's side, and the others had to stand aside. If they wanted to rope in this Sun Crane, then they would have to consider Beiho Liang's side. If Beiho Liang was unhappy, then a storm could erupt at any time. Even if Beiho Liang personally came to wait, and even sent people to scout the surroundings in preparation to capture Li Zongjiu, they did not see anyone after searching for half a day. There was not much news. Thus, the group of people waited here. Later, in order to ease the atmosphere, the innkeeper ordered the kitchen to cook several tables of delicious food and serve it to these people for free. Let's eat first. Beiho Liang also knew that waiting like this was not a good thing. With so many people here with empty stomachs, they had to eat something. This innkeeper knew how to conduct himself. Thus, the group of more than 20 people was divided into 5 tables and started to eat. After eating lunch, they ate dinner. Seeing that the day was about to end, Beiho Liang was already impatient. Beiho Liang was already somewhat impatient, and he was prepared to utilize his family's influence to search for Li Zongjiu's tracks. However, at this moment, a person walked in from the entrance of the inn. "Waiter, bring a table of dishes and 2 jugs of wine." Li Zongjiu casually found an empty table and sat down. He could not help but raise his head to look at Zhang Heshuan, Beiho Liang, and the others. Because Li Zongjiu's seat just happened to be opposite them. Looking at him like this also gave off a feeling of provocation. Because Li Zongjiu did not recognize them at all. However, Li Zongjiu knew that these people might be looking for trouble, but he did not know these people. Most of the people who offended him had already been killed by him. Usually, they would not be able to live until now. Thus, Li Zongjiu did not mind. "You guys look for trouble, I'll eat my food." Coming right up, the innkeeper looked at Li Zongjiu who sat down in front of him and was instantly stunned. Could it be that this kid was blind? There were so many angry Vajras sitting across from him, but he pretended not to see them. He just sat there and ordered food and drinks. He was actually ignoring all these people in front of him. This was too cool. The person in front of him was the eldest young master of the Bei family. Li Zongjio took out a pair of chopsticks and placed it on the table. "Let's start with a plate of peanuts," Li Zongjio said. "You brat, you actually have the guts to come back. You've made us wait for a long time. Let's see where you can escape to today. Let's see how long you can wait." The old servant next to Zhang Heshuan was the first to make things difficult for Li Zongjio. Meanwhile, Zhang Heshuan also minded his own business and drank his wine. He looked at Li Zongjio in front of him with a mocking expression, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. His eyes seemed to be saying, "Kid, you already knew that you would end up like this today. Even if you regret it now, it's too late." "Is this the person?" Bei Ho Liang asked. "Yes, it's him." The old servant next to Zhang Heshuan gritted his teeth and said. If it were not for the fact that there were so many people around, he would have rushed up and slammed Li Zongjio to the ground. "Hee, brother, I'm afraid you won't be able to eat peanuts today." Bei Ho Liang stood up. At the same time, he waved his hand and a flying knife flew out from his sleeve towards Li Zongjio. Chapter 270. Flying Dagger. Seeing this, the people present all revealed astonished gazes. In the Black North giant city, other than having a famous identity, Bei Ho Liang's flying dagger technique also made people click their tongues in wonder. That was because the flying dagger was a hidden weapon. Its ranking was not high because the flying dagger technique was not considered a hidden weapon. It was large in size and had a slow speed. It was more like a signboard that he showed off when he was trying to show off. However, Bei Ho Liang's flying dagger technique was known to be able to kill once it saw blood. Every time the flying dagger technique was used, it would be able to hit the target with 100% accuracy, completely piercing through the opponent's throat. It was because of this amazing battle record that made people want to see Bei Ho Liang's flying dagger technique. However, under normal circumstances, Bei Ho Liang was not willing to use the flying dagger technique because once the flying dagger technique was used, it must see blood. In fact, there were very few people who were able to see Bei Ho Liang's flying dagger technique. Now, facing Li Zongjio, Bei Ho Liang displayed the flying dagger technique in front of everyone. Everyone felt incomparably happy and excited that they were able to see this scene. Bei Ho Liang himself was also very satisfied with the flying dagger technique that he had mastered. Although it could be said that when he was practicing the flying dagger technique, he had consumed a lot of physical strength and energy, and suffered a lot of hardship. However, in the end, the result was very worth it. First of all, the flying dagger technique could be considered a good gimmick. At the very least, the people in the city all knew that Bei Ho Liang had mastered a flying dagger technique. Moreover, it was incomparably mysterious. If a famous person had a gimmick, it would become a topic of conversation for even more people. It could even better increase one's fame. Bei Ho Liang used such a method. Moreover, this flying dagger technique was called swallow return technique. After piercing Li Zongjio's throat, the flying dagger technique still had enough strength to make the flying dagger technique fly back to his hand. This was an extremely fancy flying dagger technique, and it was also an extremely brilliant flying dagger technique. Since it was rare for him to make a move, and it was also the day when the various great academies were recruiting students, he had to publicize his reputation. As for killing people, this kind of thing only needed to be covered up a little, and it would turn into a competition. Although this person was indeed dead, this statement could be changed. Even if Li Zongjio could come back to life and accuse Bei Ho Liang in front of them, it would be useless. They all had a way to settle this matter. Whoosh! The throwing knife flew towards Li Zongjio, but Li Zongjio didn't seem to be able to react. He continued to use his chopsticks to pick up peanuts and put them into his mouth. The throwing knife flew past Li Zongjiu's cheek. He missed. Such a stunning strike had actually missed its target. He watched helplessly as the flying dagger brushed past Li Zongjiu. Then, the flying knife changed its direction and flew in a stunning arc. After circling around Li Zongjiu, it turned the tip of the saber around and returned to where it came from, shooting towards Beiho Liang. Beiho Liang knew that this was the effect of his swallow return saber. However, he saw that the flying knife's trajectory was different from what he had imagined. He was immediately startled. He stretched out his hand and circulated his origin energy, wanting to catch the flying knife. However, he saw that the knife directly escaped from his hand and flew behind him. Whoosh! Thud, ah! The old servant next to the crane Sun had a flying knife stuck in his shoulder. Fresh blood continuously flowed out. This made the old servant cry out in pain. This scene instantly made everyone's expression change. How could Beiho Liang's flying knife hurt his own people after flying back? Could this be Beiho Liang's legendary flying knife technique? If that was the case, it would be too laughable. It seemed like a stunning technique, but in reality, it wasn't very useful. It couldn't even hit the enemy, and would only hit his own people. This was really too embarrassing. However, no one dared to laugh out loud. When Beiho Liang saw this scene, he immediately glared at Li Zongjiu in front of him. It must be this brat's doing in the dark. Although the flying knife didn't touch Li Zongjiu, it had already changed its original trajectory. It must have been affected by Li Zongjiu. Kill him for me. Beiho Liang instantly slapped the table. The experts he brought with him all leaped out. Each of them displayed their own moves, wanting to take down Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu didn't give them a chance. Since he had already stepped on their heads, how could he let them go so easily? He directly picked up the stool beside the table, and the two people in front of him were directly knocked down by Li Zongjiu's stool. Bang! Bang! After the two stools smashed the second person, the stool also shattered with a sound. 3 of them attacked Li Zongjiu from the front. Their fists were accompanied by gusts of wind as they aimed directly at Li Zongjiu's face. Li Zongjiu's figure flashed as his chopsticks pierced out at lightning speed. These 2 chopsticks directly pierced through the wrists of the 3 people. At this moment, fresh blood flowed out, and wails could be heard everywhere. What are you all waiting for? Use your elemental energy. Beiho Liang was simply angered to death by these stupid people. A group of experts at the level of a general. When they fought with others, they actually all used their fists and hands. Although the use of elemental energy was extremely likely to attract the attention of the security guards, he had already informed the security guards beforehand. However, before he came, he had already spoken to the security chief of this area. As long as it ended quickly and the matter was covered up well, it wouldn't be a problem. After all, the money he had spent for so long was not for nothing. It was because of this kind of relationship and preparation that Beiho Liang dared to bring people to block the door. As for those who attacked, they were all suffering unspeakably. It wasn't that they didn't want to use their elemental energy. It was that all their elemental energy seemed to be forcibly suppressed in their bodies, and they had no chance to use it at all. The more they tried to use it, the slower their movements became. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on their elemental energy, causing them to be unable to use their elemental energy at all. They could only use their fists to fight with Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu also very courteously smashed the 10 people who rushed up to him to the ground. He had already changed the bench in his hand 4 times in a row. In the blink of an eye, the 20 people he brought along were all knocked down. They laid on the ground and wailed endlessly. Li Zongjiu also twisted his neck. He also took a lot of punches. However, the reason why Li Zongjiu let these people hit him was because he wanted to train his ancient golden tyrannical body art. He wanted to strengthen his physical body. But most importantly, when these people's fists landed on his body, he didn't feel anything at all. It was as if they were scratching an itch. To Li Zongjiu, these people's strength was really too weak. It wasn't even worth mentioning. As for the matter of elemental energy, it was naturally Li Zongjiu's masterpiece. He only needed to exert a little pressure on their mental strength and use it properly. Once these people used their elemental energy, it would be as if their bodies were burning. That kind of scorching pain also made these people not dare to use their elemental energy at all. Fortunately, they saw that Li Zongjiu didn't use his elemental energy and thought that they could take advantage of it. However, they didn't expect that with so many people rushing up at the same time, they would still end up like this in the end. What? All of them? Even the shopkeeper and the rest who were hiding behind the counter looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Although these people were said to be hooligans, as disciples of aristocratic families, they had to have real skills in order to be valued by their families. It was even a basic lesson that they had to attend. Simply put, even if they were a bunch of rich playboys, they were still stronger than ordinary people. There were also some guards that Beihou Liang personally selected from his family. Although it wasn't honorable to do so, it was most important to be able to take care of the other party. However, these guards didn't seem to be of much use. Therefore, they were all placed on the ground. "Ah Hu, go and cripple him," Beihou Liang said. At this moment, there were only a total of 3 people beside Beihou Liang. They were Zhang Heshuan and his old servant. The one called Ah Hu was Beihou Liang's last personal guard. He was also one of the most outstanding guards in the Beihou family. Although Ah Hu looked thin and weak, he actually had the divine strength of a god. Although he couldn't cultivate elemental energy, his fighting strength was enough to make an expert at the peak of the Yuan general realm afraid. When his fist attacked, even a Yuan ancestor realm expert would be seriously injured if they weren't careful. He possessed such terrifying strength. Therefore, Ah Hu followed beside Beihou Liang. Roar! Ah Hu roared angrily and then jumped out. In order to prevent Ah Hu from accidentally killing someone, a black iron bracelet was specially placed on Ah Hu's wrist to suppress Ah Hu's strength. However, once Ah Hu got excited from the fight, this black iron bracelet would also be directly shattered. Don't worry, with Ah Hu here, this kid is dead for sure. Chapter 271. Beihou Liang solemnly said to the 2 people beside him. Zhang Heshuan and the other man only nodded. They looked at the people lying on the ground, and some of them were even wriggling their bodies on the ground. More than 20 people couldn't take down Li Zongjiu alone. But this thin and weak kid in front of them, could he succeed? When Ah Hu walked out and stood in front of Li Zongjiu could clearly feel the aura released from his body. Looking at the iron bracelet on Ah Hu's wrist, he understood that this person wasn't simple. Roar! Ah Hu stomped his foot, and the ground shook. The entire happy arrival inn shook violently. Ah Hu's figure directly dashed out, and his big fist directly smashed towards Li Zongjiu's head. Boom! Li Zongjiu's fist collided with Ah Hu's. In an instant, he felt as if he was running madly, and in the end, he crashed into a mountain wall. This kind of pain and intense tearing feeling. It made Li Zongjiu suck in a breath of cold air. However, all the power was quickly absorbed by Li Zongjiu's body. It was an easy state. However, Li Zongjiu didn't relax for long. Ah Hu's iron fist once again smashed towards him. This punch could be said to be really fierce, and it even felt as if there was a fierce hurricane hanging in front of him. Boom! Li Zongjiu bent his arm in front of him to block. However, this punch smashed into the middle of his arm, and immediately, an extremely clear shattering sound rang out. Crack! His arm was directly broken. At the same time, Li Zongjiu's figure flew backwards. His figure landed on the ground. The opponent's punch was really fierce, and Li Zongjiu felt a sharp pain in his arm. In this pain, there was actually a trace of pleasure. At the same time, the pain gradually receded, because Li Zongjiu's injury was also slowly recovering. His broken bones were automatically reconnected at this moment. Li Zongjiu's punch was effective, and it also gave Beihou Liang hope. It seemed that Li Zongjiu was not an invincible existence, and this punch taught him how to behave. Hu also felt disdain in his heart. Judging from the moment of the fight, although Li Zongjiu's reaction wasn't bad, his strength was still worlds apart from his. It could be said that Li Zongjiu wasn't his opponent at all. In fact, his punch just now would have been enough to break Li Zongjiu's arm. What? How is that possible? Hu saw that Li Zongjiu was twisting his arm as if he was adjusting his condition. He was immediately surprised. Li Zongjiu had taken a punch from him. Logically speaking, his arm should have been broken. Even if he had taken medicine, it would take some time for him to recover. Li Zongjiu waved his arm as if nothing had happened, and recovered just like that. What is your body made of? This is. Is that all you have? Li Zongjiu looked at Hu in front of him and said indifferently. Those who didn't know would think that Li Zongjiu had been beaten silly. Just now, he clearly heard that his arm was broken. Although he didn't know what method he used to reconnect his arm, he still dared to say that. His opponent didn't have enough strength. How many skills do you have? Why don't you show them all? I can break your arm with one punch. If I punch you again, I can break your neck. In the face of Li Zongjiu's contempt and provocation that courted death, Hu also grinned. It was rare to meet someone who wasn't afraid of death. Of course, he had to teach him a lesson. Then you can enjoy my strength. Hu roared in a low voice. His figure suddenly rushed forward. A table in the middle of the road was directly smashed by Hu. Hu then rushed out and jumped up. He didn't jump too high. Otherwise, it would be dangerous if his figure was too far from the ground. After all, Hu didn't understand elemental energy. Once he was subdued in midair, he would be at a disadvantage. Obviously, he had experience of being at a disadvantage before. If Li Zongjiu wanted to kill the person in front of him, it would be a piece of cake. However, Li Zongjiu's goal wasn't to kill. His goal was to let his body suffer enough damage. When Li Zongjiu felt that his broken arm had recovered, the effect seemed to be better than taking some poison to stimulate the body. It seems that there aren't many shortcuts to learn the ancient golden tyrannical body arts. He could only take the beating. Hu was angered by Li Zongjiu, so he didn't have the slightest scruple when he punched. With the permission of his young master, he was even more unscrupulous. When Li Zongjiu fought with Hu, he was often at a disadvantage in terms of strength. However, Li Zongjiu had a feeling that he wasn't afraid of death. It was as if he was saying, I'm here to die. Just hit me with all your strength and show me all your moves. After 2 rounds of fighting, Hu was already a little tired. Li Zongjiu's body was really too resilient. It was obviously as fragile as a withered branch that would break with a snap. However, his recovery ability was incomparably abnormal. In just 2 breaths of time, he could completely recover from the injuries on his body. In fact, after he recovered, his strength would increase every time he did so. This was the most frightening part of the situation. Hu originally wanted to take advantage of the time when Li Zongjiu was injured to beat Li Zongjiu until he couldn't recover. However, Li Zongjiu's reaction and speed would increase at this time, so Hu couldn't even touch Li Zongjiu's clothes. Hu could only watch helplessly as Li Zongjiu's body recovered. After which, a new round of attacks was carried out. This endless cycle had already continued for nearly an hour. Hu had even used the moves that he could use repeatedly. However, Li Zongjiu still didn't fall. Hu, what are you waiting for? Kill him! Beihou Liang roared. He had been watching the fight for a long time. In the beginning, he would applaud enthusiastically. However, when he saw that Li Zongjiu still didn't fall and was even fighting more fiercely, he couldn't help but worry. What was this guy doing? Could it be that he was acting? Hearing his young master's anger, Hu shook his head. Then, he clenched his teeth and took off the black iron bracelet on his wrist. Clang! Clang! The black iron bracelet fell heavily to the ground. It was as if the floor of the inn had been smashed through. Seeing this, the innkeeper didn't feel agitated at all. By now, the inn was almost completely destroyed by the two of them. At this time, the quality of these things could be seen. Anyway, the worst quality was the table. Clang! Clang! Hu flexed the joints of his fingers. At this moment, he was like a fierce tiger that had been released from its cage. At this moment, Ahu's body also released a barbaric and terrifying aura. It seemed that the current him was truly in his best state. Your time of death has come. Hu said coldly. The current him was twice as fast as before. You have said this more than 10 times. Li Zongjiu shook his head. Every time this guy used a new move, he would say this, which made Li Zongjiu feel a little annoyed. Most importantly, Li Zongjiu also felt that his body's toughness had increased, and Ahu's fists were no longer as effective as before. Therefore, he didn't want to waste time on this. After removing the iron bracelet, Ahu's speed was indeed faster. When he rushed over, Li Zongjiu didn't hesitate and directly raised his fist, smashing it on Ahu's face with a speed faster than his opponent's. Two of Ahu's front teeth were instantly broken, and with blood at the corner of his mouth, his body fell to the ground with a bang. Li Zongjiu kicked again, and directly kicked Ahu's nose crooked. These two consecutive blows directly disintegrated Ahu's attack power. Lying on the ground, he couldn't get up at all. Seeing this scene, Beiho Liang and the others couldn't sit still anymore. They directly stood up and looked at Li Zongjiu in shock. Could it be that Li Zongjiu had been putting on an act all this time? With just one move, he had taken down Ahu. It seemed that his injuries weren't simple. Beiho Liang pointed at Li Zongjiu, and Li Zongjiu's figure instantly appeared in front of Beiho Liang. Although he came quickly, Beiho Liang was also a Sky Origin ancestor. He immediately put up a defensive shield. Boom! When Beiho Liang's defensive shield touched Li Zongjiu, it immediately burned, and a hole was directly broken. It was burned out by the flames. What? Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and grabbed Beiho Liang over. With a shoulder throw, Beiho Liang smashed onto the floor. Puff. Chapter 272. Beiho Liang instantly felt the air in his chest being shaken out of his mouth. This time, it was really uncomfortable. Seeing Li Zongjiu's fist coming down, Beiho Liang instantly closed his eyes. No. Bang. A loud sound exploded beside his ear. Beiho Liang felt as if a sharp knife had pierced into his ear. His ear was pierced, and blood flowed out from it. The fist did not hit Beiho Liang's head but landed on the floor beside him. A big hole appeared on the floor. Even with that being the case, Beiho Liang was still deeply frightened. As the young master of the Bei family, he had a noble status and good talent. In the Heavenly Dawn medicine manner, his strength was also quite good. He had roped in many experts to stand on his side. When had he ever encountered such a situation? After being threatened with death, he almost peed in his pants. Sir, you can't kill him. The innkeeper was also frightened when he saw Li Zongjiu's action. If Beiho Liang died here, his pleasant arrival in would be finished. No matter how he explained that it had nothing to do with him, the Bei family would not let him go. Not only him, but even his family would probably suffer as well. Li Zongjiu naturally knew the seriousness of the matter. Although he wasn't afraid, he had offended quite a number of people at the moment. Moreover, he had to deal with Qing Yuan Villa, so he couldn't afford to make too many enemies. Moreover, the northern Mystic City wasn't a small city anymore. In northern Medicine City, if one killed the city lord, as long as one didn't have a powerful background, and as long as one could escape, one would only be wanted symbolically. If one didn't have any evidence, one wouldn't even be able to be wanted. Most of the people who came to investigate would be perfunctory. Who would risk their lives for such a thing? They were just a bunch of people who came to get benefits. However, in a second-class city, everything would be different. Even if there was a murder case in the slums, it would be investigated to the end. Therefore, although these hedonistic sons came to fight, they did not bring any weapons. Because this thing couldn't be casually revealed. If they used their fists, it would at most be considered a brawl. Everyone would be fined some money and mediate the relationship. However, if they were to use weapons, then the nature of the situation would be different. Only Beihou Liang had dared to use a throwing knife at the beginning. Strictly speaking, throwing knives were not considered weapons. They were just like kitchen knives. Their lethality was limited. How much do you think your life is worth? Li Zongjiu said calmly. Beihou Liang was also scared out of his wits. When he heard Li Zongjiu's question, he understood that Li Zongjiu wanted to extort him. Too many shameful things had happened today. At this moment, Beihou Liang did not want to stay here any longer. This is all the money I have. It's my loss this time. Beihou Liang was very straightforward. He immediately took out a stack of purple bank notes from his storage ring. These were all purple yuan notes. There was a note with a face value of 200,000 purple yuan. There were at least 100 notes in this stack. 20 million purple yuan. This, even the boss of the Pleasant Arrival Inn was stunned when he saw these banknotes. These hedonistic sons casually took out a stack of bank notes. It was enough for them to work hard for half their lives. No wonder there were so many people who came to hate these rich people every day. 20 million purple yuan was equivalent to 2 billion gold yuan. Even Li Zongjiu did not expect this guy to be so rich. Did these people's money just fall from the sky? But at their level, they already rarely used gold coins. They all used purple coins. This was because some things were too valuable. Gold yuan was not enough to measure them. Just like how Li Zongjiu rarely used silver yuan. And yours? Li Zongjiu pointed at the crane Sun. Brat, don't be too arrogant. The old servant beside Crane Sun continued to clamor. He was very protective of Crane Sun. However, the flying dagger still stuck in Crane Sun's shoulder made people unable to move their eyes away. If the flying dagger was pulled out, blood would splatter in an instant and it would be sent flying. Crane Sun's face was pale. Therefore, they had to go to the medical hall to pull out the throwing knife. Li Zongjiu did not pay attention to the clamoring old servant. Instead, he looked at the Crane Sun with a cold gaze. Zhang Sun was silent for a while. In the end, he was defeated by Li Zongjiu's gaze. Li Zongjiu's gaze was cold and emotionless. It was as if he would crush his head at any time. At the same time, he knew that if he did not pay today, he would not be able to leave. Therefore, he had to pay to have a chance to leave. I don't have much money. I only have 700,000 purple yuan. Zhang Sun said. 700,000 purple yuan was equivalent to 70 million gold yuan. He could get so much money by casually extorting two rich kids. In the past, Li Zongjiu had no concept of money. After all, Li Zongjiu did not need money in the past. When he needed something, he would just snatch it or give a slight greeting. Then he would have everything. He did not need to spend money anywhere. However, in this life, for the sake of his family, he had to keep his wealth. Just a mere disciple of a clan had so much money in his hands. He wondered how wealthy these people's clans were. Young master, the old servant listened to his young master's words and became nervous. Did he really have to give the money to this bastard in front of him? If he wanted to leave, this brat might not be able to stop them. Could it be that they wanted to chase him all over the street? Give it to him. Zhang Sun shouted. In the end, the old servant reluctantly put the 700,000 purple yuan on the table. Humph. Zhang Sun immediately stood up, turned around and left. Among all the people present, only Zhang Sun did not get beaten up. However, Zhang Sun knew that the person in front of him was obviously mocking him. If he continued to mock him, he would not even have the qualifications to make him attack. Because of this, Zhang Sun felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Hey, brat! When Zhang Sun was about to step out of the inn, he was stopped by Li Zongjiu. Next time you see me, stay away. Otherwise, I'll throw you into a cesspool. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Zhang Sun clenched his fists and left the inn angrily. Beihou Liang also stood up and looked at Li Zongjiu with a complicated gaze. However, there was more hatred in his eyes. What's your name? I, Beihou Liang, will remember this. Beihou Liang said. You don't deserve to know my name. Get lost. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and drove Beihou Liang away as if he was driving away an annoying fly. Beihou Liang also left the pleasant inn in anger. No one would have thought that he, the dignified young master of the Bei family, would suffer such a great humiliation here. At this moment, there were still some people squeezed in a corner of the inn. Li Zongjiu looked at the stack of bank notes on the table and the corners of his mouth curled up into a satisfied smile. Pay up one by one and you can leave. Pay up one by one. Looking at the stack of 700,000 purple yuan notes on the table, Li Zongjiu's intention was very clear. The amount of money each person had to pay must not be less than this stack of notes. Among them, some had good family backgrounds, but some were not so favored. They could not take out so much money in such a short time, so they borrowed from each other. In the end, the 20 or so people pooled together nearly 10 million purple yuan notes. It seemed that the kid was rich. He alone took out 20 million purple yuan, while these people pooled their money together and only managed to scrape together such a small amount. Li Zongjiu was also very dissatisfied. You poor bastards, pretending to be rich when you have no money. Get lost. Before they left, they were all sent out by Li Zongjiu with a kick. After falling on the street, they did not dare to say anything and went their separate ways. Earning more than 30 million purple yuan in one night, this made the owner of the pleasant inn very envious. Innkeeper, are my dishes ready? Li Zongjiu said. Then, he looked at the roof on the opposite side. After a glance, he withdrew his gaze and found a clean table. The wine and dishes were served, not daring to delay for a moment. Chapter 273. In a tall building opposite the Uli Inn. Two figures crossed their arms in front of their chests. They wore wide hats on their heads. They had been observing the happenings in the Uli Inn the entire night with their heads lowered. They were the special guards of the city, also known as the special envoys. Their duty was to monitor some special situations, such as when some underground gangs were negotiating. For such situations, they also needed to monitor. If there was a conflict between these people, they would have to take action to prevent the conflict from escalating. After these people committed crimes, they would all be captured. Generally speaking, as long as there was no death, they would not take action. Since the Shengyan dynasty had pacified the world, the country naturally had to be prosperous and the people were at peace. They temporarily had no way to take care of third-class cities and some small counties. However, second-class cities like these had to be strictly governed. These special envoys usually belonged to a certain city. For example, they were the special envoys of the Xianbei giant city. Sometimes, some fugitives would also be chased across cities. No matter where you run to, I'll catch you and bring you back. This kid's strength is not bad. He handled this matter well. Not only did he get benefits, he also took care of those hedonistic sons. The two of them had been monitoring the situation tonight. If Li Zongjiu killed someone, they would definitely not let Li Zongjiu go. And if Beihou Liang wanted to kill someone, they would also come out to stop him. Recently, it just so happened that the big schools and sects were recruiting students. There were originally a lot of things happening, and there were even more accidents. Some people who came from outside did not know the severity of the matter, and often, there would be people who broke the law. At this time, the special envoys would not let them go easily. Although he did not kill anyone tonight, he is still a dangerous person. Take note of this. One of them said. Then, he took out a book from his bosom and quickly drew Li Zongjiu's portrait on it. He also left a line of records. I heard that he is riding a red-maned horse from Thousand Horse City. Oh. Are they from Thousand Horse City? Then we have to be even more careful. After the two of them chatted for a while, they saw that Li Zongjiu had let everyone go, so they immediately left. If there were any movements in other places, they had to quickly rush over and monitor. That night's work was quite busy. For the entire night, only the Xianbei special envoys were flying in the sky. Sometimes, when they were tired, they would walk on the ground for a while. Usually, no one knew how many special envoys were walking on this street. The number of envoys in the entire Black North Giant City was enough to cover every street. From this, one could see how terrifying this number was. Even if he wanted to do something bad, it wouldn't be that easy. The strength of a special envoy was at least at the Sky Origin Ancestor realm. This was the power of the Shengyan dynasty. In comparison, any third-class city could be said to be lacking in climate. In the following 2 days, Li Zongjiu did not encounter any trouble. He bought a batch of herbs and spent a day in an alchemy building to refine many elixirs. An alchemy building in a city like this was a real alchemy building. It had all kinds of facilities, and it also sold some herbs. Moreover, even if it was the highest grade alchemy room, it didn't require anything else. It only required money. This was because the best alchemy building had an advantage when it came to refining elixirs. Even if one was not refining a grade 4 elixir, or even a grade 5 elixir, one could still refine it there. The success rate would also be higher. However, the return on value would depend on one's own calculation. One could not possibly rent a grade 4 alchemy building just to refine a grade 1 elixir. Even if one refined 100 grade 1 elixirs in 2 hours, one would not be able to earn back the money spent. Li Zongjiu only used a day's time. He had refined close to 23 flower energy gathering elixirs for Sky Origin Ancestor Realm experts. If I consume one every 3 days, this amount will be enough for me to consume for 2 months. The Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir was very popular among Sky Origin Ancestor Realm experts. If one were to sell it casually, the price would be around 1 million purple yuan. This was equivalent to 100 million gold yuan. If 20 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs were to be sold, a conservative estimate would be 3 billion. This was how terrifying it was. The cost of the herbs would not exceed 5 million gold yuan. Therefore, alchemy was a relatively profitable skill. As long as one could survive and successfully refine elixirs, there would be a lot of people who would invite one to refine elixirs. Of course, this success rate was also necessary. Li Zongjiu's success rate was basically 200% after he activated the White Dragon Origin Spirit. He had never failed in refining the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir. If it had been for the lack of materials, Li Zongjiu would have been able to continue refining. There is still one more day. Let's cultivate. Only 2 out of 3 days had passed. On the last day, Li Zongjiu stayed in the room and consumed the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir to increase his yuan power cultivation. As a grade 4 elixir, the effect of this elixir was still very strong. However, Li Zongjiu's body was like a bottomless pit. It had only been 4 hours, yet he had already refined 2 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs. Furthermore, the absorption effect of the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir within his body was much greater than that of ordinary people. How can this be? Is this body a bottomless pit? However, Li Zhongjie quickly understood. Others only had one primordial spirit, or none at all. However, Li Zhongjie had a total of 4. Just the 4 of them alone meant that no one could compare to Li Zhongjie. With so many origin spirits, it naturally required a large amount of yuan power to be consumed. Only by absorbing yuan power could one grow. Even if a Sky Origin sect elite were to refine the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir, the medicinal effect would last for at least 7 days before it could be completely refined. Li Zhongjie had already doubled his standard, refining 1 elixir every 3 days. However, when it came to putting it into practice, it was still far from enough. In one night, Li Zhongjie consumed a total of 7 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs. Even until the next day, when the sun had risen, Li Zhongjie was still in high spirits. He sensed his yuan power cultivation realm. Li Zhongjie was also quite satisfied. Grade 7 Origin General Realm. Not bad. In one night, Li Zhongjie had jumped from a Grade 1 Origin General to a Grade 7 Origin General. With such an effect, Li Zhongjie could only achieve a grade of not bad. If anyone heard this, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Only Li Zhongjie's body could reach such a level. Today is the day of the assessment. Let's see what these people are going to test. They really know how to have fun. Li Zhongjie could not help but shake his head. West City Herb Forest. Occupying the southwest corner of Black North Mega City, it covered an area of nearly 10,000 acres and stretched as far as the eye could see. In this herb forest, there were also some extremely precious herbs. This herb forest belonged to the Alchemist Alliance in the city. Since Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wanted to conduct the assessment, it was an honor for the Alchemist Alliance to use the Alchemist Alliance's site. Naturally, they did not dare to decline. The Alliance Master of Black North Alchemist Alliance had also come personally to receive them. These were all instructors of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Not to mention their alchemy cultivation, just the number of disciples that they had taught over the years was already uncountable. These people possessed great power and could not be easily offended. Moreover, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was the top academy in the Shengyan dynasty. The power and resources that it controlled were not something that the Alchemist Alliance of a mere second-class city could imagine. Therefore, the Alliance Master had also come personally. As the Alliance Master of the Alchemist Alliance, Han Qinglu naturally had a respected status in Black North Mega City. Today, Han Qinglu was wearing the alchemist robe issued by the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. 4 golden leaves were embroidered on the opening of the long robe, indicating Han Qinglu's status and rank. He was actually a Grade 4 alchemist. No one knew what level of level 4 he was at, but with this level of strength, he was able to draw a long line in front of everyone. It was unknown how many third-grade alchemists had spent their entire lives, but there was no way for them to reach this level. There weren't many Grade 3 alchemists in the Black North Giant City. Han Qinglu had already brought some people to wait. There were many students waiting around. These people were all students who were waiting for the assessment. Among these people, there were many who had great potential. If they were properly developed, they would definitely become outstanding talents of their generation. Even Han Qinglu and the others were not clear about the content of the assessment. They saw a few instructors of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor walking out from the front. Han Qinglu and the others immediately went up to them with smiles on their faces. Director Shang, you're early. Chapter 274. Shang Deqing. He was the recruitment director of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's Earth branch. He was in charge of the recruitment of students in the Black North Giant City. In the entire empire, there were already more than 100 recruitment points in the second-grade cities. In some places, some instructors would bring some students to recruit students. However, in the Black North mega city, there was a director-level instructor in charge. Obviously, the importance of this place was completely different. Alliance Master Han, you're up early too. You seem to be in good spirits. Shang Diqing cupped his hands and said. Although Shang Diqing was the director-level instructor, he was only in his 40s. Moreover, the golden leaf on his chest showed his status. Similarly, he was also a grade 4 alchemist. 2 grade 4 alchemists had appeared in the Black Northern mega city at the same time. Such a lineup was extremely eye-catching. Not early at all. It's our honor to be able to provide resources for your manor. Alliance Master Han, you're too courteous. If you're free after the assessment, you can come to our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor for a visit. Shang Diqing was also very good at controlling his words. He directly invited Han Qinglu to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor as a guest. What was the point of being a guest? Of course, he wanted to discuss the experience of refining pills. To put it bluntly, he was giving Han Qinglu a chance to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to listen to a lecture. Han Qingluo's face lit up with joy when he heard this. His heart was also bursting with joy. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Back then, he was not talented enough, so he had no choice but to miss the opportunity to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Now that he had the opportunity to enter and learn, it was naturally a good thing. Thank you, Director Shang. Thank you, Director Shang. Even though Han Qinglu was much older than Shang Diqing, he still appeared quite respectful and reserved in front of Shang Diqing. The people behind him did not even have the qualifications to talk to Shang Diqing. Is everyone here? If so, we'll start. Shang Diqing said. Behind Shang Diqing, there were also a few instructors and disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Shockingly, Beiho Liang was amongst them. Beiho Liang was obviously a little haggard these 2 days. After being threatened by Li Zongjiu, he still couldn't swallow his anger. He couldn't wait to kill Li Zongjiu. However, it was hard to imagine how strict the supervision in the city was. There are already so many people. When Li Zongjiu arrived, he saw that there were already a lot of people gathered in front of the western city's medicinal forest. People were constantly moving about. He was almost too late. Li Zongjiu had just exited his cultivation state. Today's training had exceeded Li Zongjiu's expectations. However, after the Yuan power had been strengthened, it had also greatly improved his physical condition. Yes, it's that brat again. That brat is actually here to register for the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. When Beiho Liang saw Li Zongjiu, he was instantly shocked. His eyelids twitched and his emotions fluctuated. He never expected that Li Zongjiu would actually fall into his hands. Instantly, a sinister light flashed across Beiho Liang's eyes. There were so many examinees present. Although Beiho Liang did not have the authority to make the decision, if he interfered and caused Li Zongjiu to fail the assessment, it would be enough for him to take revenge on Li Zongjiu. When he thought of this, Beiho Liang sneered in his heart. The Sun also saw Li Zongjiu. A glint flashed across his eyes. Why didn't he see Li Zongjiu before? Was he here to participate in the assessment as well? However, Zhang Sun subconsciously moved to the side to prevent Li Zongjiu from seeing him. He, Zhang Sun, was an alchemy genius. He was not good at fighting. However, Li Zongjiu was very good at fighting. Otherwise, Beiho Liang and the others would not have been beaten up so badly. Therefore, it was not beneficial for Zhang Hexuan to meet Li Zongjiu here. When the assessment began, he would show Li Zongjiu how powerful he was. This time, the Black North Giant City only had 5 spots. However, there were less than 500 people left after the first round of screening. Many people did not pass the first round of the assessment. Some of the tasks were simple, but to some people, it was harder than ascending to the heavens. Not everyone had such talent. Especially when there were tens of thousands of medicinal ingredients, when the method was ever-changing, it was truly a headache. Even if some martial arts geniuses could be said to have some achievements in martial arts, when it came to alchemy, there was a high chance that they would be completely clueless. This was the terrifying gap and uniqueness between the two. The entire Black North giant city only recruited 5 people. In the entire Dinghuan province, there were probably more than 300 people who signed up. In the 13 provinces of the Shengyan dynasty, the number of people would reach 3,000 to 4,000. However, there was still a test when one went to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. In the end, only 5 people could enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Not even 1 out of 10 would survive. This cruel selection and elimination rate also proved the status of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Those who could enter were the cream of the crop, the true pillars of the country. You are all here to participate in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's recruitment test. Now is the second round. You have all passed the first round, so I have to congratulate you first. However, don't be in a hurry to celebrate. The second round begins today. I'll give you 7 days. In these 7 days, each of you must cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower. Moreover, the seeds you use must be provided by us. The doors of the western city's medicinal forest were already closed. Some of the examinees who had yet to arrive were directly turned away. If they couldn't even make it in time for the test, what was the point of coming? They should just pack up and go home. Hearing the content of the test, the corners of Zhang Heshuan's mouth couldn't help but curl up. Although Beiho Liang couldn't help him take revenge, he could provide some help in the process of the test. For example, he could leak some information in advance. Although he didn't know the specific content, Beiho Liang had asked Zhang Heshuan to prepare some spirit soil and spirit spring in advance. These were all used when cultivating medicinal ingredients. As for the 5-colored soft intestine flower, if one wanted to cultivate it, they had to absorb a large amount of spirit energy. During the process, they had to be carefully taken care of. Otherwise, if they were careless and absorbed too much spirit energy, they would explode. This was how the name of the 5-colored soft intestine flower came about. Of course, after it was cultivated, if it was said that it only had 1 color, it would be considered a beginner grade. Some of the more skillful ones could open 2 or even 3 colors. As for 4 colors, it would require time. If it was 5 colors, it could basically be sold as a 4th-grade spirit herb. Everyone only had 1 seed. If this seed was spoiled, it would be equivalent to a failure. Cultivating spirit herbs had nothing to do with refining pills. However, as an alchemist, or if you wanted to become an alchemist, you must first have a basic understanding of spirit herbs. Among the 500 people who stayed, at least they knew what the 5-colored soft intestine flower was. If you can successfully bloom within 7 days, you will pass. There will be supervisors to supervise you. You cannot cheat. The place you can find is in the western city's medicinal forest. Remember, you cannot destroy any of the medicinal ingredients. Shang Diqing said. You cannot destroy the medicinal ingredients. The range was within the western city's medicinal forest. Then, seizing the place where spirit energy gathered became the most important thing. In addition, with the catalysis of one's own spirit energy, there was a possibility of success. Therefore, time was of the essence. They had 7 days, so they had to catalyze day and night without stopping. A cold light flashed in Beiho Liang's eyes. This time, you've really fallen into my hands. He sneered in his heart. Then, he spread open a few tables. There were a few crystal jars, and inside the jars were small black beans. These were the 5-colored soft intestine flower seeds. In addition, there were some small shovels and other tools at the side. It was quite considerate. All the examinees lined up in front of the tables to receive the seeds and tools. This is yours. A female disciple of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor already had beads of sweat on her forehead. After registering Li Zhongjiu's number plate and information, she handed the seeds and tools to him. Good luck in the exam. The female disciple smiled at Li Zhongjiu. Although work was tiring, the female disciple's smile did indeed make one feel happy. There was a huge hourglass in the open space. The second round of the Black North Giant City exam begins now. She turned the hourglass upside down. These 500 examinees rushed into the western city's medicinal forest. This medicine forest was more like a primeval forest that they had created. Many of the spirit herbs grew naturally. However, the chances of them being destroyed were lower. Therefore, 100 flowers could bloom. In a mountain forest of more than 10,000 mu, there was naturally a difference in the concentration of spirit energy. Some of them quickly took out some tools and began to explore the ground, looking for the place with the highest concentration of spirit energy. Chapter 275. Even if Li Zhongjiu used his nose to sniff, he would know where the spirit energy was dense enough to bring these seeds to life. However, Li Zhongjiu was not in a hurry. After all, he had just sat on the bed for an entire day. It was not a bad idea to take a walk now. He wanted to stretch his muscles and bones. Immediately, Li Zhongjiu placed his hands behind his back and walked forward in the medicinal forest. It had been a long time since he had taken a stroll in an elixir field. In this kind of place, even a single breath was enough to make one feel refreshed. This was the magical effect of the elixir field. This was a rare treasure land that could prolong one's life. This person is quite interesting. He's actually walking slowly. The others are already wishing they had 4 legs. After distributing the seeds, the 5 disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor breathed a sigh of relief. Among the 5 disciples, there were 3 men and 2 women. One of them was Beiho Liang. Beiho Liang had been staring at Li Zhongjiu since the beginning. He wished he could snatch the seeds from Li Zhongjiu's hands, put them on the ground, and step on them before returning them to him. You guys take a break later and go in for an inspection. There will definitely be people who will violate the rules. Yes, head. Beiho Liang and the others said. The 2 women also walked to the side and observed this batch of disciples. If we're talking about handsome, that Zhang Heshuan is quite handsome. I heard that his potential is not bad. However, his style is not good. That one is not bad either. The younger woman with a ponytail recalled Li Zhongjiu's cold and indifferent face. At the same time, he looked a little silly. She looked at Li Zhongjiu's leisurely appearance. This was the first time he had seen such a magnanimous and open-minded person. This was the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's test. Could he be more serious? Even if he was not serious, he should at least look a little nervous. However, Li Zhongjiu appeared to be calm and composed. It was as if he was already confident and had only come to the medicine forest for a stroll. Yes, they are all potential stocks. I just don't know how talented they are. After all, you and I are not on the same level as them. If they are not strong enough, they will not be able to enter our world. I heard that Zhang Heshuan is very talented. In this round, I still favor Zhang Heshuan. The ponytailed girl could not help but purse her lips. Although Zhang Genshu's talent was obvious to all, the young lady wasn't interested in the Sun Crane and didn't have a good impression of it. He felt that Zhang Heshuan was a sinister person, so he was unwilling to get close to him. On the other hand, Li Zhongjiu was different. He gave off the feeling of a spring breeze. Moreover, one could always feel that Li Zhongjiu was calm and pure. At least, that was the case when it came to alchemy. Director Shang, the weather is hot. I've prepared a bottle of 1,000-year-old wine in the room next door. Why don't we go to the bamboo courtyard and have a drink? Oh. 1,000-year-old wine. What wine? Upon hearing that it was a 1,000-year-old reward, Shang Deqing's eyes lit up as if he wanted to eat someone. These people were old. Besides alchemy and cultivation, they only had these hobbies left. Therefore, they were very excited. Of course it's the Jade Lake Heavenly Spring. Heavenly Spring Mountains wine. Okay. Let's go. You guys, I'll leave this place to you. If there's anything, come and find me. Shang Deqing immediately grabbed hold of Han Qinlu and walked quickly towards the bamboo courtyard. In the medicine forest. More than 500 people entered the medicine forest quickly. Some of them were familiar with each other and went in groups. After all, it was very likely that they would receive hostility and hatred from others. Therefore, they had to be prepared at this time. To prevent these people from acting recklessly, it would also make them feel more at ease. There were also some people who were good at fighting as well as concocting pills. Thus, they were bold enough to go alone. In the beginning, everyone was looking for a more secluded place so that they could cultivate the seeds in their hands in peace. Li Zongjiu also walked a few hundred meters on foot and found a good place in front of a waterfall. It was under the cliff of the waterfall. However, a battle had already broken out here. A tall and sturdy man with strong arms defeated 5 people by himself. He even kicked one of them directly into the water. 1 against 5, that was already a pretty good result. The surrounding 5 people also fled in panic. The man turned around and saw Li Zongjiu. He first looked at Li Zongjiu's body. Such a thin and weak body, how many punches could he take? Get lost. I'm in a good mood today. I'll give you a chance to live. The man waved his hand. He seemed to be very magnanimous. Li Zongjiu acted as if he didn't hear him and continued to live in front of him. The man suddenly showed a ferocious look. You don't understand what I'm saying, do you? Li Zongjiu continued to walk. Damn it, I met a retard. Today, I'm going to beat all the wax out of your ears. The man rolled up his sleeves and took the initiative to walk toward Li Zongjiu. Just as he was about to punch Li Zongjiu's head. However, he realized that Li Zongjiu had already made his move and punched the man's face as well. Bang! The tall and mighty figure was directly sent flying. With a bang, he fell into the river 10 meters away. If he were to crash onto the floor, all the bones in his body would probably shatter. At this moment, the man fell directly into the river. Because he took a punch, his body couldn't struggle and was directly sent away by the river. Whoosh! Like a piece of wood, he was directly washed away. Li Zongjiu wasn't interested in where the waterfall would lead to. When Li Zongjiu got rid of the big man, he didn't find a place to plant the seed. Instead, he glanced at the waterfall. You guys have been holding it in for so long. Don't you plan to come out? Li Zongjiu said indifferently. After he said this, the scene became quiet. There was no sound around. Then, 3 figures suddenly rushed out of the waterfall that was constantly flowing down. Bang! 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 The 3 of them split up and landed beside Li Zongjiu. They all had a dagger in their hands and stared at Li Zongjiu in front of them. Their eyes were as sharp as knives. The 3 of us don't want to hurt anyone. You'd better leave. Let's make friends. You guys don't deserve to be my friends. Either leave or be washed away like him. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Your Excellency, don't overestimate your strength. The 3 of them had obviously been in the Jianghu for a while. Although they knew Li Zongjiu wasn't someone to be trifled with, they didn't give up directly. After all, the spiritual energy here was rich. For them, there would be a greater chance to cultivate the 5-color soft intestine flower. Therefore, this was a treasure land that they had to fight for. No matter what, they couldn't lose it. If Li Zongjiu insisted on not leaving, then they could only fight a bloody battle. Looking at the 3 of them, it seemed that they came from the same place. In fact, their strength wasn't weak. At least they could hold their breath in the water for so long without coming out. But in the end, they were discovered by Li Zhongjiu. Naturally, they had no choice but to come out. However, perseverance was just perseverance. Since this place had already become Li Zhongjiu's territory, the fate of these people could only go with the flow. 3 seconds later, the 3 of them fell into the river. They went down with the flow and disappeared without a trace. Fortunately, there weren't any meta beasts in the river. Otherwise, these meta beasts would have a full meal. This place is already occupied by this person. But how can we let you enjoy such a good place alone? Zhang Heshuan saw this scene from afar and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. Anyone with some experience would be able to find this place. This place could be said to be the place with the richest spiritual energy in the entire herb forest. If planted here, the effect of the growth would be very obvious. Li Zhongjiu was 1 step ahead and at least 10 people had been beaten back. It seemed that the fight here was also very intense. Spread the word that this place is rich in spiritual energy and can help the 5-color soft intestine flower grow faster. Zhang Heshuan said indifferently. The people following Zhang Heshuan were people he met at the banquet a few days ago. To them, if they could have a master like Zhang Heshuan to guide them, their chances of passing the assessment would be greatly increased. Even if Zhang Heshuan ordered them to do something, it would be reasonable. This kid will probably become the target of public criticism. One of them sneered. Some people would also plant their own seeds in a hidden place and then destroy other people's seeds. That could also be considered as a means of doing things. Such a method was quite despicable. People like Li Zhongjiu. If he were to occupy a treasure trove by himself, he would become the target of these people. Chapter 276. Since he was going to stay here for 7 days, he naturally had to prepare well. There was a lot of ritual in life. Li Zhongjiu used his mental strength to build a small house and a small courtyard by the riverside. In fact, there was a lot of knowledge in this kind of plant. If one could not grasp the mystery of it, it would be very difficult to succeed. Everything in the world had a counterbalance. Since he wanted the 5-colored soft intestine flower to grow, he naturally had to find something that could accelerate the growth of the flower. Before planting, it seems like I have to transplant some things here. Li Zhongjiu scratched his chin and recalled the books he had read in his previous life. In order to grow this thing in such a short period of time, it would naturally require the use of some folk recipes and methods. Before leaving, Li Zhongjiu also set up a mental strength array in front of his house. People who came close. They would be knocked down by the mental strength and directly faint. This was a very normal thing. However, Li Zhongjiu still had a trick up his sleeve and did not increase the power of the attack. Otherwise, if they came too close, they might be directly killed. After that, Li Zhongjiu went to the mountain forest and took the small shovel and small bucket in his hands to look for the herbs everywhere. Li Zhongjiu did not go far. Some people who received the news also came in groups and came to the waterfall. When they saw that under the waterfall, there was actually an earthen house in front of them. When they felt that the place was permeated by the spiritual spring, they immediately coveted this area. A place like this would definitely be able to let their 5-colored soft intestine flower grow. That kid's 5-colored soft intestine flower must be buried in that courtyard. As long as we dig it out and plant it, then he will definitely not recognize it. These people thought for a moment and immediately came up with such a brilliant plan. This kind of sneaky move was also somewhat unexpected. However, this was just a thought. If the other party found out, wouldn't they be done for? Right now, in the western city's medicinal forest, the only thing that was more precious than their lives was probably the seed in their hands. Why don't we set his house on fire and burn it down first? That's right, let that brat know how powerful we are. Let's set the fire first. Therefore, a few people approached and wanted to use the flint in their hands to set the house on fire. However, when they got within 100 steps of the house, they felt a sense of dread. It was as if a pair of eyes were staring at them, making their hair stand on end. What do you feel? Do you feel like someone is staring at you? Although this place was still within the Black North Giant City, it was still extremely dangerous. However, the surrounding environment was gloomy, giving people the feeling that something was about to attack them. After all, they were people who lived in some big cities, and their families had prominent identities. They didn't need to run to such a desolate place all day. And any family, that is, if anyone discovers that you have some talent. It could be said that from this point on, at the very least, you wouldn't have to do any manual labor. That was how popular you were. The value and profit that an alchemist could bring to a family was beyond imagination. Have you gone crazy from playing with women? There's no one around. A person said to his companion in disdain. However, as soon as he took a step forward, he immediately felt as if someone had hit him on the head with a hammer. Bang! Just like that, he fell straight to the ground. What the fuck are you doing? Are you fucking pretending to be dead? Do you think you don't have to set the house on fire by lying on the ground? Get the fuck up. That person wanted to go up and wake up the person who was pretending to be asleep. However, when he walked to the side of that person, he also felt a heavy hammer on his head. His whole body fell on the other person's body. Only 2 people walked forward, while the other 3 watched from afar. When they saw the 2 people fall one after another, they couldn't help but glance at them, not knowing what the hell was going on. Aren't the 2 of them known to be ruthless? Why are they lying together now? That's not right. The 2 of them seemed to have fainted. The 3 of them looked at each other. Could it be that there was a sneak attack nearby? They looked around for a long time, but there was no trace of anyone. The 3 of them simply gritted their teeth. Let's bring them back first. We can't leave them there. These people wanted to drag the 2 unconscious people back. However, when they approached, they were once again knocked down by the spiritual array. If they really had some achievements in alchemy, they must have cultivated mental strength. Then, they might be able to sense the location of the spiritual array. Naturally, they wouldn't dare to casually approach it. Because a casual force was enough to send people flying. It wasn't that simple. After having mental strength, one would know how terrifying the mental strength left by Li Zongjiu was. Such a situation occurred. These people who had been knocked unconscious were basically the sons of some rich families in the city, disciples of big families, or disciples from other cities. They were all here to fish in troubled waters, but in reality, they didn't have any ability. They only came here to try their luck. If they were accidentally hit, it would be a good opportunity. However, it seemed that things weren't so good now. Because they met Li Zongjiu. When Li Zongjiu came back with a few medicinal herbs in his hands, he saw a few figures lying in front of his small house. They looked like they had been electrocuted. Why are there so many people lying here? Li Zongjiu glanced around. Along the way, there were actually 11 people who had been knocked unconscious by his own mental power, directly arriving here. Fortunately, this wasn't the street outside. Otherwise, with so many people lying in front of his house, wouldn't he have to pay for it? Li Zongjiu held the medicinal herbs that he had just dug up with one hand and kicked the people into the river beside him one after another. Plop. Plop. One by one, they fell into the river and were directly washed away. By now, Li Zongjiu had sent away nearly 20 people. These 20 people would most likely miss this round of assessment. Li Zongjiu carefully planted the medicinal herbs he had transplanted in the courtyard. The surrounding plants were all helpful to the 5-colored soft intestine flower. At the same time, the spiritual energy released was enough to let the 5-colored soft intestine flower grow quickly. Such a perfect environment. After preparing, Li Zongjiu planted the seeds in his arms. Next, he only needed to water it with spiritual energy every day. It's really the first time I've planted medicinal herbs so carefully. In the past, Li Zhongjiu also had a herb mountain. However, this herb mountain only grew some common elixirs. Some of the extremely precious elixirs had extremely harsh living conditions. They weren't something that could be grown just because one wanted to. He would need to use some extremely precise methods to do so. In the past, Li Zhongjiu also left the medicinal herb mountain to other people to take care of. Now, this careful cultivation also made Li Zhongjiu more vividly feel the process of planting spiritual herbs. It's done. Li Zhongjiu also set up a spiritual energy here to pay attention to the growth of the five-colored soft intestine flower. Now that it had just been planted, he couldn't use strong spiritual energy to water it. Otherwise, the seed would directly die. On the top of the mountain. In a remote corner. Zhang Heshuan also found a treasured land and planted his seed directly. At the same time, his technique was similar to Li Zhongjiu's. However, he didn't have so much energy to transplant it. He just directly placed some vitality stones around the seed. He used the seed to help stabilize the spiritual energy. How's the kid situation? Zhang Heshuan meditated in front of the seed. This time, another person came out to ask. I don't know what kind of trap was set around that kid. Anyone who got close to him fainted and was directly thrown into the river by Li Zhongjiu. Now, no one dares to provoke him. A bunch of trash. Zhang Heshuan opened his eyes and scolded angrily. Although there are no meta beasts in the western city's medicinal forest, there are some small hunting insects that can't be restrained. I have a bottle of fever powder here. You just need to sprinkle it within 100 steps of the house and it will attract the termites in the medicinal forest. At that time, I want that kid's seed to be completely eaten. This move is awesome. The subordinate's eyes suddenly lit up. But our seed hasn't been planted yet, give it to me. Chapter 277. That night, two black figures took advantage of the darkness to approach Li Zhongjiu's small house. From afar, they could see that Li Zhongjiu's house was still lit. This made them extremely envious. This brat, he actually enjoys life so much. Where did he get this house? The people who saw this scene also made the two young masters very jealous. If they were in the city, they could indulge in debauchery every night. However, in this medicinal forest, they could not even call for help. Even if they wanted to call for two girls to have some fun, it was impossible. If they directly went out during this process, it would be equivalent to being eliminated. Is this fanatic powder really useful? One of them asked in a low voice. Nonsense, didn't you read the books? This fanatic powder can last for 3 days without dissipating. Even if it's raining heavily, there's no way to get rid of it. At the same time, it can attract termites within a radius of 1,000 meters. These termites have extremely strong vitality and can't be killed no matter how hard you try. This fanatic powder is usually used to get rid of termites. Oh, you really know a lot. I couldn't tell. That person also cast a look of admiration. He did not expect that this person who fooled around all day actually had real skills. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain the use of the fanatic powder. It seemed that among these brothers, only he was truly ignorant and incompetent. The others had more or less learned a thing or two. When he thought of this, he secretly made up his mind to master one of his skills in the future. No, there's a description on this bottle. Although the fanatic powder was not a rare thing, in a place like this, it was an existence similar to a divine weapon. Where are we going? Just get within 100 steps. Once these termites come close, they will look for things with spiritual energy to gnaw on. At that time, they will naturally devour that brat's medicinal forest. This time, he said. Let's go, you cover for me. The two figures quietly groped their way over. The roar of the waterfall was right next to them, so the sound of their footsteps was masked. They only needed to slightly conceal their bodies and not be so brazen. In this forest, coupled with the lack of light, they could still approach very stealthily. However, when they got close, they were prepared to sprinkle the fanatic powder. However, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Not good. This gust of wind suddenly blew on their bodies. It seemed like dust was blown into their eyes. They immediately closed their eyes and coughed for a while. By the time they reacted, they immediately realized that something was wrong. Fanatic powder. The two were shocked at the same time. The fanatic powder in their hands had already been completely scattered. However, there was not even a single drop on the ground. All of them were blown onto their bodies by that gust of wind. It's all scattered on us, this damn wind. Now, what the fuck do? What else can we do? Let's get the antidote from Zhang Heshuan. The two threw down the bottle and ran away. If they had been a little later, the termites would have rushed over and eaten them completely. These termites, when there were only one or two of them, were not a big deal. However, when the number of termites suddenly increased, it would become a disaster. They could easily eat you completely. Moreover, these termites moved at an extremely fast speed. Some of them even had the ability to fly. Coupled with their small size, they could be said to be omnipresent. If one did not take good care of it, they could crawl into one's crotch in the middle of the night and eat you completely. However, the two of them were attacked by termites on their way back. They fled all the way and even forgot how to go back. Li Zhongjiu, who was in the small house, just shook his head indifferently. These people are really boring. With these people's abilities, they wanted to subdue Li Zhongjiu. It was simply a joke. If not for Li Zhongjiu's apprehension that he was going to enter the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor to study, he would have killed all of them. Those who dared to offend the evil lord should be prepared to be tortured and killed. Li Zhongjiu was just that ruthless. There was no room for discussion. After sending these people away, Li Zhongjiu immersed himself in his own cultivation. In the next 2 days, no one came to disturb Li Zhongjiu. Even Beihou Yang had secretly observed Li Zhongjiu a few times and discovered that Li Zhongjiu had actually set up a spiritual array around him. He didn't dare to rashly approach him. Among the rich kids, Beihou Yang had a certain reputation in strength. He would not be so reckless. In addition to the 2 days before, 2 people were plotted against by Li Zhongjiu. It was said that halfway through running, they were almost dragged away by a group of termites. Such a terrible thing happened, and it was definitely related to Li Zhongjiu. However, because there was no evidence, they could not say anything. On the one hand, in these 2 days, the 5-colored soft intestine flowers that should have bloomed should have some movement. Some people did not control the quantity at the beginning, and some were too hasty. In the end, they directly killed the flower. No matter where this useless seed was planted, even if it was planted for 100 years, it still wouldn't blossom. Many people who had bloomed were very careful to protect it. Now, it was just a flower bud. In order to really bloom, it still needed the injection of spiritual energy. At the same time, it was to prevent some extreme people from spoiling the other seeds after they died. However, Zhang Heshuan was protected by Beihou Yang. After receiving some warnings, no one went to disturb Beihou Yang. Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes and looked up at the roof. Then, he walked out of the door and saw a girl in a white dress with a ponytail squatting on the roof of his house. She was looking down carefully. And the place where her gaze landed was the place where Li Zhongjiu planted the 5-color soft intestine flowers. Who are you? Li Zhongjiu looked at the girl on the roof. This girl's ability was not simple. She could easily avoid his spiritual formation. If she did not come close, Li Zhongjiu would not have noticed that she had appeared on his roof. I am the Invigilator. Someone reported that your spiritual formation broke the rules, so I came to take a look. The girl did not jump down, but continued to stay on the roof. Oh. Broke the rules? Li Zhongjiu asked. It's not considered breaking the rules, but I am a little surprised that you used turmeric to seal the spiritual energy. What is your name? The girl with the ponytail asked. Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu replied. After all, the other party was the invigilator. He did not expect that one day, he would be invigilated by such a little girl. What goes around comes around, and in an instant, it came to Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu. Are you from the Li family of Lanhua City? No. Oh. It's okay. You can do it. Someone has already opened one color. Looking at you, it seems that it will not be easy to open two colors. The girl with the ponytail said, then, she got up and jumped easily. Like a giant white bird, she flew towards the sky. With a boom, she disappeared in front of his eyes. I opened one color, so fast. Li Zhongjiu looked at his seed. Until now, it was still buried in the soil, and there was no movement at all. However, Li Zhongjiu was not in a hurry. This seed needed to be properly brewed. Now was not the time to be anxious. Another 3 days passed. It had been 5 days since the beginning. Zhang Heshuan looked at the 5-colored soft intestine flower that had opened 2 colors. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Now, the number of people should be less than 1/10 of the original number. The most popular person who can open a flower is definitely not more than 20 people. Although I have a 2-colored flower now, I want to win first place. There are still 2 days, and I can open one more color. In order to completely defeat that person, and let him know what was called an insurmountable gap between them. A genius is a genius. Some people are born noble, like me, who is born noble. Some people are born lowly, like Li Zhongjiu, who is born lowly. This kind of person must be stepped on, ruthlessly trampled on, ruthlessly trampled on. Chapter 278. You've finally grown a little bud. Li Zhongjiu was pleasantly surprised when he saw that his seed had sprouted. Hey, Li Zhongjiu, there are only 2 days left. Can you make it in time? A figure landed on Li Zhongjiu's roof. Li Zhongjiu could not help but raise his head to look at the young lady in front of him. She came here almost every day. Wouldn't she be annoyed by it? Of course. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. Although there were only 2 days left, in fact, the first few days were used to lay the foundation. If the foundation was not stable, it might wither directly and could not live for long. Since the foundation was already laid, there was no need to wait. Li Zhongjiu immediately took out a 3-flower energy-gathering pill. The effect of this pill was clear. When he took out the 3-flower soul-gathering pill, the ponytailed girl almost cried out. 3-flower energy-gathering pill. You want to use a grade 4 pill to grow the flower. The ponytailed girl was obviously shocked. Even if Li Zhongjiu's family background was mysterious, he might not be rich enough to use a grade 4 pill as nourishment. This was simply too heroic and overbearing. It was unbearable. Is this against the rules? Li Zhongjiu could not help but ask. No, it's not against the rules. The young lady hesitated for a moment before replying. Soon after, she stared blankly as Li Zhongjiu ground the 3-flower yuan gathering pill in his hand. Every time he ground it, the young lady could feel as if her heart was placed on a whetstone as she continuously rubbed it back and forth. This was simply too shocking. In just a short while, the tri-flower soul-gathering pill had turned into a pile of powder. The powder was catalyzed by Li Zhongjiu and buried in the soil. The effect of the 3-flower energy-gathering pill was indeed very strong. In just one morning, a flower of the same color had already bloomed. The effect was obvious as Li Zhongjiu saw. Not bad. Li Zhongjiu nodded in satisfaction. One 3-flower energy-gathering pill was obviously not enough. Li Zhongjiu took out another 3-flower energy-gathering pill. The ponytailed girl on the roof saw this scene and suddenly widened her eyes. This can't be a fake pill, right? Li Zhongjiu must have taken out this pill to scare people. In fact, it was just a fake pill, right? However, the ponytailed girl could clearly feel the power of the pill itself. She could clearly feel that it was a grade 4 pill, and it was in the middle of the 3-flower energy-gathering pill. The effect of this pill was definitely a very high-quality pill. It was because of this that the young girl was so shocked. She almost couldn't believe her eyes. Don't you feel bad? This is a 4th-grade medicinal pill, the girl could not help but ask. Is it a foul? Li Zhongjiu asked again. It's not against the rules. Then you don't have to care so much. Li Zhongjiu said faintly. The pills that he had refined were not enough for him. This little girl had been staring at him all day long. He did not know if she had any ulterior motives. In these last 2 days, he had to keep a close eye on her. Otherwise, if the pills were to be destroyed by this little girl, Li Zhongjiu would have the heart to kill her. Even if this little girl did not show any hostility, Li Zhongjiu had to be on guard. When the ponytailed girl saw what Li Zhongjiu was doing, she continued to grind the pills into powder. 2 grade 4 pills had been wasted. Li Zhongjiu was really unscrupulous in order to pass the test. What a waste, what a waste. The ponytailed girl could not stand it anymore. She held her forehead and shook left and right. Li Zhongjiu could be said to be completely disappointed in Li Zhongjiu. She let him do whatever he wanted. But now, the girl was finally relieved. Because if Li Zhongjiu was like this, passing the assessment would not be a problem. Although this process was a little wasteful, for an alchemist, pills were nothing. They knew how to refine pills. It seemed that there must be a very strong alchemist in Li Zhongjiu's family. Otherwise, with Li Zhongjiu's prodigal behavior, his family would have thrown Li Zhongjiu out long ago. The girl saw that Li Zhongjiu's 5-colored soft intestine flower was about to succeed. She was also happy. Then, the girl left the place. As an invigilator, she could not only keep an eye on Li Zhongjiu, but also on the other candidates. At this moment, there were less than 100 candidates left in the medicinal forest. The elimination rate was still very scary. Because they only had one chance to treat the seeds in their hands well. Some people gave up early, and some people did not even know how to plant it. After planting it, there was no reaction at all. Even if they watered it themselves, there was no sign of it taking root or sprouting. There were also some who were showing signs of improvement. But some people who wanted to destroy it directly uprooted the young seedlings, using such a method to eliminate others. Of course, such a situation was very rare. After all, this was a way to make enemies. There was even a possibility that one would be blacklisted by the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Although talent was very important, if there was a big problem with one's character, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would seriously consider whether to continue teaching you. After all, if a random evil person were to go out and have such a strong power, it could even bring a huge disaster to the Shengyan dynasty. They would rather not teach you than nurture you into a huge malignant tumor. Less than 100 people. The competition was so intense. Just like that, another day passed. Beihou Liang saw from afar that a 2-colored soft intestine flower had bloomed in Li Zhongjiu's courtyard. His eyes were filled with shock. 2 days ago, there was nothing in Li Zhongjiu's courtyard. There were only some weeds and the like. But in the blink of an eye, it actually bloomed with 2 colors. This caused Beihou Liang to be incomparably shocked. But soon, the corner of Beihou Liang's mouth curled up into a cold smile. Although I don't know what method you used, I guarantee that you have no way of growing this flower. Beihou Liang sneered. Then, he looked around, worried that he would be discovered by others. Then, he took out something from the storage ring. He took out a black box. There seemed to be something sealed in this black box. Even Beihou Liang carefully opened it. When Beihou Liang opened the box, there was a black bone finger inside. This finger was as black as ink and as hard as iron. At the same time, there seemed to be some kind of terrifying power hidden in this black bone finger. It wasn't easy for me to get this black bone finger. Today, I'll let you know what it means to be too late for regrets. Immediately, Beihou Liang buried the black bone finger underground, and casually dug a hole that was 10 meters deep. After the black bone finger was buried in the hole, in less than an hour, the surrounding spiritual energy would dry up and even be eroded by the power of darkness. There was only 1 day left. The range wouldn't be too far. He just needed to dig out this black bone finger in time. In this way, he would make Li Zongjiu's soft intestine flower completely lose all hope of survival. No one could remain intact under the erosion of the power of darkness. After doing all this, Beihou Liang covered up the surrounding traces. He only needed to come back tomorrow to retrieve this black bone finger. This black bone finger was obtained by Beihou Liang from the black market. Just from this terrifying power of darkness, he knew that the owner of this bone was not ordinary. "You're still too inexperienced to fight with me." In order to prevent this matter from being exposed, Beihou Liang deliberately moved to another place. However, he didn't know that Li Zongjiu had already sensed it when he took out the black bone finger. What a pure power of darkness! In reality, it wasn't Li Zongjiu who sensed it. It was the black dragon's origin soul in the origin pearl that clearly sensed it. That was why Li Zongjiu was able to sense this power instantly. After Beihou Liang left, Li Zongjiu's figure appeared. It's this old schemer again. Chapter 279. Looking at Beihou Liang's departure, Li Zongjiu did not make a move to deal with Beihou Liang. That guy was quite powerful now. He was actually a disciple of the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. That meant that he was now an invigilator. If he killed him here, he would definitely offend the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. It seemed that if he wanted to kill this guy, he would have to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. However, if this Beihou Liang went too far, Li Zongjiu did not mind letting this Beihou Liang disappear in the darkness. Even his corpse would not be found. Destroying the corpse would remove all traces. In the end, the investigation would be fruitless. If it was not a last resort, Li Zongjiu would not do such a thing. After all, as the evil lord in his previous life, he rarely killed people in the dark. After all, in the past, he would kill people in front of them. Li Zongjiu dug up the soil on the surface. His mental power instantly penetrated the ground and pushed away the soil on the surface. Even when his mental power touched the black bone finger, he felt a hot burning sensation. Found you. Li Zongjiu picked up the black bone finger. When the black bone finger appeared in his hand, Li Zongjiu was quite shocked. Although I don't know the origin of this thing, the owner of this thing should not be simple. Even now, he could already sense the frightening dark energy contained within this black bone finger. This was merely a finger. If it was an entire arm, or even an entire set of bones, just how frightening would it be? This guy actually gave me such a treasure. Li Zongjiu immediately smiled coldly. If that guy wanted to destroy his flower, he would naturally use all kinds of methods. Fortunately, this time, it was a lucky hit. Such a good thing, Li Zongjiu would gladly accept it. There was only 1 day left until the end of the examination. Therefore, Li Zongjiu did not refine this black bone finger on the spot. Instead, he put away the black bone finger and returned to the courtyard to nurture his 5-colored soft intestine flower. Li Zongjiu also realized that this kind of careful cultivation and planting of such a small thing, it was indeed a waste of time. If he had the time, he might as well go to the market and buy it. The next day, at the entrance of the Western City herb forest, There was only a tiny bit left in the enormous hourglass. There was less than 15 minutes left before the end of the competition. If someone was not able to make it in time, they would have lost their qualification even if they had completed the refinement. Shang Diqing and the others had already set up a long table at the entrance to receive and register the items. Before this, 15 people had already walked out with the soft intestine flowers. However, all of them only got one color. But compared to those who had been eliminated, these people were already successful. Shang Diqing stood at the side, neither happy nor sad. His gaze was fixed on the forest. They were waiting for that figure to appear. Oh. They're here. Shang Diqing's eyes finally lit up. Although these people who had cultivated the soft intestine flower were not bad, they had not reached the level of excellence. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would only accept the most outstanding people. Two-colored soft intestine flower. To be able to cultivate it in such a short time, it's not bad. Shang Diqing heard a voice in front of him. The person who had brought the two-colored soft intestine flower was a young girl in plain clothes with an ice-cold face. Although the young girl's expression was serious, when she saw that her two-colored soft intestine flower was recorded, she finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she had passed. Moreover, this two-colored soft intestine flower was also a real material. These days, it could be said that this young girl was exhausted. This girl is the disciple of an old friend of mine. Han Qinglu saw that the girl had succeeded and could not help but let out a sigh of relief. This result was not bad. Not bad, not bad. It's a little amazing. Shang Diqing nodded. Finally, there was someone he was satisfied with. However, he really wanted to see how this person's result would be. Examiners, directors, greetings. Zhang Heshuan's face carried a smile that was enough to charm some innocent girls. At the same time, he waved his hand. Suddenly, a potted plant appeared on the table. This potted plant was the 5-colored soft intestine flower. 4 colors. It actually bloomed with 4 colors. The ice-cold girl was still immersed in the joy of her success when she was suddenly interrupted by this exclamation. She could not help but turn her head and look. She happened to see the pot of 4-colored soft intestine flower in Zhang Heshuan's hand. 4 colors. The ice-cold girl counted in disbelief. There were indeed 4 colors. Although the 4th color was just a faint line. However, it was indeed born with 4 colors. She had tried her best, but she had only managed to nurture 2 colors. This Zhang Heshuan is quite capable. The ice-cold girl remembered this Zhang Heshuan. The people present were also extremely shocked. Even Shang Diqing's face revealed a smile. Huh, not bad, not bad. It seems that the first place of this assessment is undoubtedly yours. Shang Diqing said. The 2 female disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor were naturally extremely shocked. He actually managed to cultivate a 4-colored soft intestine flower. He's really amazing. The ponytailed girl's mouth was slightly shocked. I knew it. This kid's potential is not bad. The female disciple who was slightly more mature also pursed her rosy lips. She seemed to be thinking about something. Well done. Beiho Liang's eyes lit up. Sure enough, he was not mistaken. This Sun Crane was quite capable. Zhang Heshuan also heaved a sigh of relief. Although the people in front of him were all more powerful than him, he could not help but show a trace of pride on his face. This was the pride he should have. Wait, look at that person's hand. What is that? Oh my God, this can't be fake, right? The teachers and disciples present were also extremely shocked. They all looked forward as if they had seen something incredible. Shang Diqing and the others also followed the crowd's gaze and looked over. Immediately, Shang Diqing's eyes revealed a shocked light. What's going on? Seeing the change in Shang Diqing's and the others' expressions, even Zhang Heshuan was surprised. Could it be that there was someone more powerful than him among these people? Although he did not like Li Zhongjiu, Zhang Hexuan believed that he could easily defeat Li Zhongjiu even if he did not use any tricks. Moreover, before yesterday, Bei Ho Liang also gave Li Zhongjiu a big gift. Now, Li Zhongjiu should be holding his withered soft intestine flower in pain. When Zhang Hexuan turned around, he saw a figure slowly walking in front of him. His pupils immediately shrank. At this moment, Zhang Hexuan's heart was filled with incomparable shock and astonishment. This is impossible. Zhang Hexuan directly denied it. However, the figure in the distance had already walked over. They saw Li Zhongjiu slowly walking over with a pot of soft intestine flower in his hand. The soft intestine flower in his hand had bloomed with a total of 5 colors. When these 5 colors appeared before their eyes, they were like 5 flamboyant knives that were incomparably dazzling and eye-catching. It was these things that had given Zhang Hexuan a heavy blow. Li Zhongjiu had actually cultivated a soft intestine flower with 5 different colors. This was the true 5-colored soft intestine flower. How was this possible? In a short 7 days, even though he had used a secret technique, the soft intestine flower had barely bloomed with a 4th color. Furthermore, this 4th color was just barely passable. However, Li Zhongjiu had actually managed to cultivate this soft intestine flower with 5 different colors. He had cultivated it to be extremely plump and transparent. This was simply a world of difference. It was as if he had just barely entered the origin general realm. However, the other was already at the peak of the origin ancestor realm. One could imagine the disparity between the two. As for Li Zhongjiu, he wasn't surprised that the 5-colored soft intestine flower had survived, even though he knew that his 5-colored soft intestine flower would bring some shock and astonishment. However, when they saw the faces of these people, they all opened their mouths wide in shock. Their eyes were also filled with astonishment as they stared intently at the flower in his hand. He had never imagined that these people would be so astonished. Was there a need to make such a fuss? Given the ability of Evil Lord in his previous life, it wasn't surprising that he was able to do this. This is my flower. Li Zhongjiu placed the 5-colored soft intestine flower on the table as he spoke softly. He had finally broken the shocked and solemn atmosphere of these people before him. Chapter 280. Impossible. I just observed your flower the day before yesterday, and it hasn't bloomed yet. How could you bloom 5 colors in less than 2 days? How dare you use such a despicable method to deceive us? Heavenly Star Medicine Manor will not tolerate shameless people like you. Bei Ho Liang roared angrily, waking everyone up in an instant. It was almost impossible to cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower in such a short period of time. Even if Director Shang Diqing did it personally, he wouldn't be able to achieve such a level. Therefore, it was very likely that Li Zhongjiu had secretly prepared a pot of 5-colored soft intestine flower that had already bloomed. In fact, the seed had already been thrown away by Li Zhongjiu. Hearing Bei Ho Liang's words, everyone revealed an expression of understanding. Even if he was a genius, he only needed one Zhang Hexuan to appear. Now that there was one Zhang Hexuan, there could be another monster that was 100 times more abnormal than Zhang Hexuan. Didn't that mean that they were all useless? The cold woman looked at Li Zhongjiu with contempt and mockery. When she knew that Li Zhongjiu actually used such a method, she had already labeled Li Zhongjiu as a hypocrite. Such a person was a piece of trash. Director, I saw it with my own eyes. Besides, Junior Gongjiu also saw it with her own eyes. If you don't believe me, you can ask Junior Gongjiu. Bei Ho Liang said. Everyone's eyes were focused on the ponytailed girl. She was Gongjiu. Because of her curiosity about Li Zhongjiu, she paid special attention to Li Zhongjiu these days. However, she also followed the rules very well. She couldn't have any direct contact with the examinees. She couldn't even get too close to them. Moreover, a few days ago, Li Zhongjiu's five-colored soft intestine flower only bloomed one color. She saw it with her own eyes. Today, when she saw Li Zhongjiu holding a five-colored soft intestine flower, even she didn't dare to believe it. The difference in levels was too great. 2 days ago, at dawn, Li Zhongjiu's five-colored soft intestine flower seedling only bloomed one color. I was there, but I saw it with my own eyes. Li Zhongjiu used the powder of the three flowers energy-gathering pill to cultivate it, but I didn't see the final result. Gong Jiu gritted his teeth and said. He knew that the first part of his speech might be disadvantageous to Li Zhongjiu, but the second part of his speech told everyone that Li Zhongjiu definitely had the strength to do so. It's only been a day and a half since dawn the day before yesterday. In just a day and a half, you were able to open 5 colors from one color. Is this possible? Li Zhongjiu, you should get out of here. There are so many alchemists present. Do you think it's difficult to identify the age of a medicinal herb? Beihou Liang said coldly. At this moment, he had already determined that Li Zhongjiu just casually picked a medicinal herb to make up for the scene. Just this kind of behavior was enough to make Li Zhongjiu get out of here and put him on the blacklist of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. This Li Zhongjiu would be completely banned. Kid, now you know how powerful I am. Li Zhongjiu didn't care about the surrounding people's doubtful and disdainful gazes. His gaze searched for a while and finally landed on Han Qinglu and Shang Diqing. You're a 4th-grade alchemist, right? Come and test it, then you'll know. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. And you slandered my reputation. Prepare to pay the price. Li Zhongjiu looked at Beihou Liang. Beihou Liang also saw Li Zhongjiu's cold gaze and his heart was slightly startled. This Li Zhongjiu was serious. This gaze was really terrifying. However, this was the Black North Giant City, the place where he, Beihou Liang, lived. What was there to be afraid of? At most, he would find someone to kill this kid. It wouldn't cost much. At that time, he would let Li Zhongjiu know why people's lives were so cheap. After thinking about it, he felt relieved. Bluff. Alliance Master Han, please. Shang Diqing waved his hand and said. Both of them were 4th-grade alchemists. The person Li Zhongjiu mentioned just now was naturally Han Qinglu. Han Qinglu cupped his hands. As a 4th-grade alchemist, he naturally knew that this 5-colored soft intestine flower was full of vitality and vitality. It wasn't in a declining state, nor was it spoiled by excessive enthusiasm. Obviously, it had just grown. However, in order to conduct a more accurate inspection, Han Qinglu also came in front of the pot of 5-colored soft intestine flower and cupped his hands towards Li Zhongjiu. If Li Zhongjiu could really cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower that was comparable to a 4th-grade alchemist in these short 7 days, then his future achievements were also worthy of Han Qinglu's deep friendship. After mingling in this world for so many years, Han Qinglu was very clear about one thing. That was, don't underestimate a person's potential. The gap between them was really too big. Some people simply didn't need a long time to turn from a pheasant into a phoenix. In the blink of an eye, it would give you a big surprise. Han Qinglu gently plucked a leaf from the 5-colored soft intestine flower. Then, a yuan power flame seeped out from his palm and instantly burned the leaf. However, during the burning process, the flame also changed along with the burning of the leaf. In the end, the flame showed a green color. The age of this medicinal herb is less than a month. My appraisal flame is accurate to the month. This 5-colored soft intestine flower definitely grew in less than a month. Han Qinglu said. These words could be considered as throwing out a heavy bomb. After all, it was only a month. Thus, it was very possible that it was cultivated by Li Zhongjiu. To be able to possess such a cultivation, it was even more evident that this Han Qinglu's cultivation was not simple. Alliance Master Han's words cannot be confirmed. This flower was cultivated by Li Zhongjiu in these 7 days. It is not impossible to cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower in a month's time using some special method. Beihou Liang said indifferently. As long as no one was able to determine that this 5-colored soft intestine flower was cultivated by Li Zhongjiu and Ah Zi in these 7 days, this Li Zhongjiu would not be able to wash away the suspicion. No matter what, he could not allow Li Zhongjiu to get away with it like this. Even if he was truly the one who cultivated the 5-colored soft intestine flower, with him, Beihou Liang here today, he could forget about proving it. Han Qinglu did not say anything else. This matter was of great importance. If he were to say anything more, he would easily offend others. Naturally, he did not place this Beihou Liang in his eyes. Naturally, he was afraid of offending this head Shang Diqing. After all, up until now, Shang Diqing had not said anything. However, it could be seen that Shang Diqing was extremely satisfied with this Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu, you're still not scramming. Are you waiting for me to send someone to drive you away? Beihou Liang said. Li Zhongjiu did not say anything. Are you going to tell me the markings on this 5-colored soft intestine flower, or should I? Li Zhongjiu looked at Shang Diqing and slowly said. When Shang Diqing heard this, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Ha ha ha. You've got guts, you've got guts. Record Li Zhongjiu's results. This time, only 3 people will pass the assessment. My Celestial Day Medicine Manor only recruits the best of the best. Those who have managed to nurture the same color are considered outstanding. I recommend that you all go to other medicine manors to learn. My Celestial Day Medicine Manor only recruits 3 people in the Black North Metropolis. These were the final 3 people. Naturally, they were Li Zhongjiu, Zhang Hexuan, and the ice-cold woman, Yao Lei. This woman's background was not small. She was the disciple of Han Qinglu's old friend. Han Qinglu himself was a Tier 4 alchemist. Naturally, his old friend was also at the same level. However, he had never revealed her identity before this. Now that she had been revealed, it caused many people in the city to exclaim in surprise. In the huge Black North giant city, only these 3 people passed the assessment. Although it was said that there would be another assessment after arriving at the Holy Yen city. However, this was already a victory. In fact, if one went to the Holy Yen city and failed the assessment, there was actually a chance. That was to study in the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Manor for a month. If one's performance was outstanding, there might be an exception to recruit them. Although it was said to be the highest institution, it was not willing to miss out on talents. If one really had potential and talent, then they would think of a way to stay. However, if one really did not have a way to display one's talent, then they could only return to where they came from. Li Zhongjiu was recruited. Beihou Liang couldn't say anything. After all, it was personally announced by the director. What right did he have to interrupt? After all, the Beihou family was only a second-tier city. If he, Beihou Liang, was the young master of a first-tier city, then this situation would not have happened. There were countless second-tier cities. In the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Manor, his status could be said to be at the bottom. If he did not have the ability. Before long, this Sun Crane would be able to climb to the top of his head as well. Beihou Liang did not speak anymore. However, he remembered this grudge. Because Li Zhongjiu actually made a fool of him in public. Chapter 281. He had said so much in the beginning, but in the end, no one listened to him. This made him lose face. This was a complete loss of face in front of everyone. This made Beihou Liang feel his face burning. Li Zhongjiu did not put him in his eyes at all. After dismissing the rest of the people, Shang Diqing also gave the remaining 3 people a scroll each. The contents of the scroll showed that it was an examination ticket. Although you have passed the examination of the Black North Giant City, you will have to compete with people from the 12 prefectures, nearly 100 second-class cities, 30 first-class cities, and the Sacred Flame Royal City for the quota. With your strength, if you work hard in the last half a month, there is still a great hope. Shang Diqing said. Yao Lei's eyes were fixed on a ray of light. She had worked hard, but in the end, she would have to face so many opponents. These opponents could be said to be on the same level as her, or even higher than her. Therefore, this was a very tough battle. Zhang Heshuan's eyes were also burning with fighting spirit. The only person present who did not have any fluctuations and was even thinking about his own matters was Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had nothing to say. Enemies and the like were all fleeting clouds in his eyes. If you were not fleeting clouds, then he would turn you into a pile of smoke. Shang Diqing memorized Li Zongjiu's words. After all, to be able to do this, Li Zongjiu was definitely a very powerful person. However, there were too many people like him. In the entire Xingyan dynasty, there were countless elites and powerful people. They had even become third-grade alchemists at a young age. This kind of ability was already extremely outstanding among his peers. If he could become a fourth-grade alchemist, he would be directly recruited into the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Of course, he still had to go through the formalities. Half a month later, after passing the test, they would have to bring the admission ticket to Holy Yen City for the final test and selection. Because the Xingyan dynasty was too big, some places had only just begun the test. It would take some time to go through the entire process. Shang Diqing and the others were not responsible for the safety of Li Zongjiu and the others. He did not lead the way for them either. After all, this was not a small expense. On the same day, Shang Diqing and the others returned. The situation here needed to be reported in a timely manner. Even Beihou Liang followed Shang Diqing back to the city. Before returning, Beihou Liang also returned to the western city's medicinal forest to retrieve his dark hand bone. However, when he returned to the place where he buried the hand bone a few days ago, no matter how hard he searched, he could not find his dark hand bone. How is that possible? I clearly buried it here. I brought it back as a gift for eldest senior brother. Where did my dark hand bone go? Beihou Liang was in a panic right now. In order to get that thing, he had paid a huge price and spent a lot of sweat. In the end, he still managed to get that thing. Money was a small matter, but he had to do a lot of favors and things that he had to ask people to settle. After all, this kind of power could be said to be a forbidden item. Finally, after a series of operations, it was placed in the black market to be traded. However, it was now missing. One could imagine how panicked Beihou Liang was in his heart. Damn it, it must be with that kid. Li Zongjiu, just you wait. If you don't let me live well, I won't let you live well either. Beihou Liang roared. This Li Zongjiu really did not shed tears until he saw the coffin. He actually wanted to step on Beihou Liang's head. However, there was no time now. He must meet up with the director and the others. Wait until we reach Holy Yen City. See how I will deal with you. At this moment, in the city, Li Zongjiu, Han Qinglu, and the cold-faced woman were walking together. This person had also passed the assessment. Although Li Zongjiu did not care, those who could pass the assessment were not bad. However, Li Zongjiu did not put them in his eyes. Han Qinglu looked at Li Zongjiu who was beside him and his heart skipped a beat. Little Li, where are you from? Wuxia City. Li Zongjiu said while looking straight ahead. His attitude was extremely dull. However, Han Qinglu did not show any dissatisfaction. After all, Li Zongjiu had cultivated the five-colored soft intestine flower in such a short time. His potential was limitless. Once Li Zongjiu entered the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Mansion, he would certainly be a young elite when he came out. If such a person could be recruited into the Alchemist Alliance, then it would be a huge fortune. Wuxia City, the most beautiful city in the south. Although it is located in a remote area, it is indeed a beautiful place. Han Qinglu said. Obviously, Han Qinglu also had some understanding of Luoxia City. When I was young, I also went to Luoxia City. I saw the scenery of Luoxia and Lone Centipede flying together. It was indeed breathtaking. Li Zongjiu looked at Han Qinglu in surprise. He was indeed an experienced person. He knew how to arouse people's interest in chatting. Li Zongjiu would have ignored Han Qinglu if he had talked about how much he would pay and how much he would pay if he joined the Alchemist Alliance. However, Han Qinglu was very smart. He told Li Zongjiu about Luoxia City. Who was Li Zongjiu? He was a person who had been reborn. Therefore, he loved and cherished his hometown even more. Now that he heard someone praising his hometown, he naturally had a good impression of this person. Of course, the scenery of my Luoxia City is unparalleled in the world. Li Zongjiu said. However, there was a hint of confidence in the corner of his mouth. Humph, I don't believe it. Yao Lei said from the side. Obviously, she did not believe that Luoxia City could have such beautiful scenery. Li Zongjiu also did not refute. If there is an opportunity in the future, you can cooperate with our Luoxia City. Li Zongjiu said. This was a friendly invitation. It would be good for the Li family to make friends with some forces outside. Listening to Li Zongjiu's words, Han Qinglu nodded. Of course. That's right. I noticed that you haven't taken the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's alchemist assessment. If you are able to take the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's assessment, it will be beneficial for you. Alchemists like us can also have a good exchange. Han Qinglu said. That kind of assessment is useless to me. I don't need it. Li Zongjiu said lightly. Yao Lei heard Li Zongjiu's words and immediately thought that Li Zongjiu was deliberately putting on an act. That was the assessment of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. If he could get a title, it would be a golden signboard. No matter where he went, people would recognize him. However, after thinking about it, Li Zongjiu was able to cultivate the 7-colored soft intestine flower in 7 days. Although she did not know what method he used, it was definitely powerful enough. Maybe Li Zongjiu really did not care. Han Qingliu's eyes moved. Then, he took out a token from his sleeve. Li friend, this is the Foreign Affairs Elder Token of the Black North Medicine Alliance. I don't have anything else with me. With this token, all the consumer facilities in the city, including the purchase of medicinal herbs, can be discounted. If you have any business dealings with the Luoxia city in the future, no matter who it is, you will receive generous gifts with this token. Another token. Did these people not have anything to give? In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had received a bunch of tokens. The shapes of these tokens were strange and there were many symbols on them. In the end, he could not remember all of them. But now, these tokens might be able to bring convenience to the Li family. Looking at Han Qingliu's sincere eyes, Li Zongjiu took it. Okay, I'll give you face. You're a good person. That's all. See you next time. Li Zongjiu took the token. He casually threw it into the storage ring. Later, he would find time to send it to the Luoxia city. Li Zongjiu was not clear about the current situation in the Luoxia city. But with Luo Sha and the other two guarding the city, plus the existence of the Fog Snow Pill sect, there should not be any problem. As long as Li Zongjiu's mental strength continued to grow stronger, he would be able to communicate with the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle from thousands of miles away. In that case, he would be able to know the situation of the family. Li Zongjiu directly left. Han Qinglu and Yao Lei also stopped. Humph, an impolite guy. Yao Lei coldly snorted. Don't underestimate Li Zongjiu. He may be a 4th-grade alchemist. Han Qinglu slowly said. What, this, how is this possible? Yao Lei suddenly opened her mouth in surprise. But from the mouth of Grandpa Han, if he was not sure, he would not say it so confidently. This Li Zhongjiu, a fourth-grade alchemist. Chapter 282. Yao Lei's mood could not calm down for a long time. Li Zhongjiu always had a cool and indifferent look on his face, as if he was an extraordinary expert and the people around him were just ordinary people. Most importantly, Li Zhongjiu was only interested in his own affairs. Even if the entire Xianbei giant city was attacked by meta beasts, he would not even blink an eye. Such a person. It was really troublesome. Such an indifferent character was also annoying. Although Yao Lei's character was also relatively indifferent, it was only to prevent some annoying flies. Yao Lei didn't mind interacting with some young talents. When she was in the Western City Medicinal Forest, she finally found out that Li Zhongjiu had really cultivated the 5-color soft intestine flower. Because of Beiho Liang's interference, all of this became traceable and even some things became unreal, so Yao Lei did not feel much. It was not until she heard her grandpa Han's words that she suddenly remembered. What Li Zhongjiu did, it was impossible for them to achieve even if they worked hard. He did not care about the title of Heavenly Pill Pavilion. He did not even care about the token of the External Affairs Elder of Xianbei Medicine Alliance. It could be seen that Li Zhongjiu really did not care about these things and was not deliberately pretending in front of him. So at this moment, Yao Lei finally knew why Grandpa Han valued Li Zhongjiu so much. It should be known that this was the token of the External Affairs Elder. The status was quite respected. In the entire Xianbei Medicine Alliance, there were only 3 people who had this token, and Li Zhongjiu was the 4th. It was just that he was such a young 4th-grade alchemist. Yao Lei still did not believe it in her heart. Because it was really too shocking. One had to know that her master, Han Qingliu's grandfather, had only become a grade 4 alchemist at a very old age. Even Yao Lei herself was only a 2nd-grade advanced alchemist now. It would still take a certain amount of time to become a 3rd-grade alchemist. As for becoming a 4th-grade alchemist, her master had said that this required luck. If the opportunity came, he would naturally have the opportunity to become a Tier 4 alchemist. Before that, what he needed to do was to concentrate on his cultivation, build a good foundation, and wait for the opportunity to come. And how old was Li Zhongjiu? He was even younger than her. Therefore, Yao Lei temporarily threw this terrifying thought to the back of her mind. 4th-grade alchemist. How could that be? She wouldn't believe it no matter what he said. Li Zhongjiu returned to his inn and settled the bill. Li Zhongjiu didn't come back for the past 7 days, but the accounts were still in his hands. For ordinary people, this was money that they would never be able to earn in their lifetime. However, Li Zhongjiu didn't care. Just the money he received from those rich kids far exceeded this amount by hundreds or even tens of thousands of times. The owner of Yu Lai Inn didn't take advantage of Li Zhongjiu. I'll waive the bill for the next few days. Last time, it was my inn that let you down. However, the Bei family is very powerful in the city. They may not dare to do anything in the city, but once you leave the city, you have to be careful. The owner of the inn kindly reminded Li Zhongjiu. He could tell that Li Zhongjiu wasn't an ordinary person. These days, he hadn't returned to the inn, so he thought that Li Zhongjiu had something to do with him. Now, it seemed that he had gone to participate in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manners examination. Those who could participate in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manners examination were naturally capable people. The owner of the inn was also apologetic about the previous incident. After all, the other party had spent so much money and still couldn't settle the matter. The main reason was that he didn't dare to provoke the Bei family. "Where's my horse?" Li Zhongjiu nodded and asked. Soon, the waiter brought the red-maned horse over. Li Zhongjiu first went to the relay station and sent the External Affairs Elder's token back to Luoxia City. It might be useful in the future, but if it was left with Li Zhongjiu, he wouldn't know where it would end up. The relay station was a transmission link built by the Shengyan dynasty. Almost every day, it would move. Even the slightest movement of grass would pass through this relay station and be transmitted. Li Zongjiu rode the red-maned horse and headed north. Sacred Flame City. Sacred Flame City was the center of the entire Xingyan dynasty, and people from all directions came here to pay their respects. It was the gathering place of almost all the experts in the world. It was like the center of a huge whirlpool. Here, one could enjoy a high position. Only here could one become a true expert. If you had the heart to become an expert and wanted to make a name for yourself, you had to come to the Xingyan dynasty. This was a height that the 13 prefectures couldn't reach. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu also spent a lot of time in Sacred Flame City. Because the city was rich in resources, you could get whatever you wanted. As long as you had enough money, you could get whatever you wanted. If you were stuck at a bottleneck, you could find an alchemist and ask him to refine a pill for you. That would solve your problem easily, as long as you could afford it. In Sacred Flame City, there were top alchemists, spirit masters, and elemental inscriptions masters from all over the country. All the top people of different professions gathered here. Ancient Martial Pavilion, Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, these top institutions were also established in Sacred Flame City. There was no reason for top resources not to come to Sacred Flame City. For young people, this was a place with countless opportunities. Things that were difficult or even impossible to come into contact with in other places could possibly exist in Holy Yen City. Li Zongjiu sat on the back of a horse and spread out the map in his hand. Start from here and walk for 700 miles. After crossing the Qianding River, you will enter the pass. After entering the pass, walk for another 800 miles and you will arrive. There weren't any cities near Sacred Flame City. There were only checkpoints and fortresses. Although they were similar in scale to cities, their names and functions were different. In other places, the city lord might have the highest authority. However, in such checkpoints and fortresses, the commander of the army definitely had the highest authority and status. This was because he was in charge of controlling the flow of people in and out of the checkpoints. At the same time, he was also the most direct force that mobilized the troops stationed in various places. No matter where natural or man-made disasters occurred, the soldiers in the checkpoints would rush over as soon as possible. The soldiers' role wasn't just to fight and defend against the enemy. They were almost omnipotent. It was normal for them to contribute to the people. Of course, the checkpoints were also the hubs of transportation. In order to prevent the enemy's army from gathering, they were usually set up near the elemental beast forest. Once there was a big movement, the elemental beast would take the initiative to greet you. In the past, Li Zongjiu didn't care about these things. However, now it seemed that he had a lot of knowledge. No matter who wanted to rebel, they would first have to break through the 8 checkpoints surrounding Sacred Flame City. At least 1/3 of the checkpoints had to be broken through. Otherwise, the 8 checkpoints would support each other and one wouldn't have a chance to succeed in a surprise attack. It will be more difficult than ascending to the heavens for the army you lead to approach Holy Flame City. It was a distance of nearly 2,200 miles. In addition to the rugged mountain path and the time needed to travel, 15 days was a little rushed. Li Zongjiu didn't hesitate. He immediately rode the blood mane horse and headed towards the Qianding River. Ta-ta-ta, the horse galloped. Its speed suddenly soared as if it was stepping on thunder. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed into the distance. Just after Li Zongjiu galloped away on his horse. On the mountain peak in the distance, there was a group of men in black holding a long tube-like telescope in their hands. They stared at Li Zongjiu's figure. Since this person is riding a horse, he must be going to the Qianding River to take a boat. We will ambush him on the boat. Yes. Young Lord said that if we can't bring this person back, we will have to atone for our sins with death. Chapter 283. Qianding River. It was the second largest river in Dingquan province. The river was turbulent, and if one accidentally fell into the water, he would be washed away by the river in less than a minute. At the same time, the river was more than 200 meters wide and was rich in resources. Sometimes, there would even be some meta beasts that would rush out from the water. It was quite dangerous. However, the Shengyan dynasty built some Vajra pillars in the upper and lower reaches of the river to allow people to pass through the river. The purpose of these things was to prevent large meta beasts from crossing the river. As for a bridge, it was impossible to build one because the river was too wide. In addition, the water level rose every year. The river was even more powerful than the meta beasts. Qianding Pier. The merchant ships that came and went ashore here. They were mainly used to transport large items or large quantities of items. After all, the space of a storage ring was limited. For example, if one wanted to transport some mountain rocks or wooden pillars, how many storage rings would be needed to store them all? A storage ring with a large space was expensive to make, and it was extremely rare. Li Zongjiu came to the Qianding Pier. The journey of 700 miles took 2 days. Because it was impossible to run all the way, the red mane horse was unwilling to do so. Li Zongjiu rested for a night along the way. On the second day, he arrived at the Qianding Pier at dawn. The next boat will take 40 minutes. Let's rest. Li Zongjiu bought 2 boat tickets. One of them was for the red mane horse. Qianding River. Back then, I killed meta beasts on this river. Li Zongjiu thought. However, this time was also a few years in the future. In his previous life, there was once a domineering meta beast on Qianding River. It was good at swimming and had a cruel nature. It liked to eat people. The traffic in the Qianding River was blocked for 3 months. In these 3 months, no one dared to spend time on Qianding River. In the end, the Saint Flame Empire also sent experts over. At the same time, they also recruited experts from various places to deal with the meta beast. Li Zongjiu needed to refine an elixir, and he needed the meta crystal of a water-attributed meta beast. That was to kill the soul beast. That water demon king shouldn't have appeared so soon. Back then, after the water demon king succeeded, it dove into the water and dived to the bottom. Its whereabouts were unknown, but if someone passed by, it would immediately sense it. Moreover, it swam extremely fast in the water. In order to kill the water demon king, he spent a lot of energy and fought with the water demon king in the water. On the Qianding River, a huge ship was slowly approaching. They could already feel the aura of the ship from afar. It was like a giant beast hiding in the water. It was this aura that caused some of the weaker Yuan beasts to not dare to approach it. Moreover, half of the components of this transport ship came from Cerulean Wave Colossal City's Jing family. The Jing family could be said to be a major shipbuilder. Whether it was the ships that flew in the sky or the ships that floated on the sea, they were involved in everything. With these skills and abilities, the Jing family was enough to become a top-notch existence. It was just that they still needed time. Alright, line up and get on the ship. If anyone dares to snatch it, I will push him off. The dock was also outsourced to the local tycoon. The tickets that were collected had to be paid a huge amount to rent the ship. It was just to make a living. If they were asked to buy such a huge ship, they didn't have the ability to do so. Li Zongjiu led the horse and boarded the ship. There were almost 300 people on the ship, and they were all crowded in the passageway to board the ship. As for this giant ship, it wouldn't be a problem for it to carry 3,000 people at once. Li Zongjiu boarded the ship and took the initiative to walk to the deck. The red-maned horse also stepped on the deck easily. The huge waves in front of them swayed, but the ship itself was stable. It was just that the wind on the deck was a little strong. Raise the sail. The crew on the deck shouted loudly, and the huge sail was immediately pulled up. The boats designed by the Zheng family were actually powered by yuan crystals. However, they couldn't afford to use them like that. The places that sold tickets couldn't afford the consumption of yuan crystals. Hence, it was better to use the wind power obediently. They would only activate it when they encountered an emergency. Inside the ship's cabin, more than 10 assassins in disguise had also mixed in. However, among the passengers, there was a woman. There was a woman among them. She held a blood-edged long saber in her hand, and her eyes were filled with cold light. She had already noticed the assassins when she boarded the ship. These assassins could be said to be some low-level goods. The murderous aura on their bodies was so obvious that it was impossible for them to hide their identities. At first, she thought that these assassins were here to kill her. It's him. The woman saw the person leading the horse on the deck. Li Zhongjiu. When she saw Li Zhongjiu, she couldn't help but want to cut off Li Zhongjiu's head. If it wasn't for Li Zhongjiu, she wouldn't have to run around like this. Finally, after weighing the pros and cons, she put the blade back on her leg. Li Zhongjiu also sat down cross-legged. This ship would take at least 30 minutes. Hence, there was still some time to rest. When the boat reached the middle of the Qianding River, a few people stood up and groped their way forward from the two sides of the boat. Their goal was to surround Li Zhongjiu from the front and back. The leader also stood up, followed by 7 or 8 people. Their hands were on the daggers in their arms. They slowly walked toward Li Zhongjiu. Attack! The leader immediately gave the order. Everyone was ready to attack. Suddenly, they felt a fishy wind. Huh! When the leader of the group turned around, the people around him had already rushed out. However, someone actually attacked him. By the time that man turned around, he saw a woman holding a long blade and slashing toward his neck. Fuck! The assassin immediately fell down, but the opponent's blade was faster. Swoosh! The saber landed on his shoulder, almost cutting off half of his body. Bang! His body fell to the ground. The dozen people rushed toward Li Zhongjiu. Damn it! The woman gritted her teeth. Suddenly, she stomped her foot and attacked. The blade in her hand moved, and with a swoosh, she easily cut down the people in front of her. Bang bang! Be careful! The woman shouted at Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu didn't seem to notice, still sitting in the same place. The woman didn't know if she had made the right choice. This move could have cost her her life, but if she hadn't done so, she would have lost this opportunity. It wouldn't be long before she died on the road. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes. He saw that the people around him had all fallen to the ground. Behind Li Zhongjiu stood a woman who was holding a long saber that was bleeding non-stop. The passengers and crew in the cabin were scared silly. The woman had killed more than a dozen people in the blink of an eye. It was as if she was cutting grass. She had killed them all. Only the leader clutched his broken shoulder and struggled to lift half of his body. He wanted to see the situation, but all he saw was corpses all over the ground. Li Zhongjiu was still standing in the same place. Are you the blood strike guard? Li Zhongjiu turned around and saw the woman behind him. Regardless of whether it was the figure or the expression in his eyes, Li Zhongjiu recognized him with a single glance. The person in front of him was the blood robe guard who had tried to protect Zhang Yu in the northern Medicine City governor's mansion back then. Unfortunately, Zhang Yu hadn't been strong enough. He had still killed Zhang Yu. If these people hadn't fled, Li Zhongjiu would have killed them all. He had already noticed this person when he had boarded the ship. She was a blood strike guard with a bronze rank. The murderous aura and blood aura on her body had already reached a restrained level. She was young and could be molded. However, when she saw him, she should have captured him. Why did she help him get rid of these enemies? That's right. Thanks to you, I am being chased by the blood strike guard. Either you kill me today, or I'll follow you. The woman said. Her stubborn eyes were fixed on Li Zongjio. If Li Zongjio hadn't brought her along, a large number of blood-strike guards would have found him in less than 3 days. He wouldn't have lived for more than 3 days. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.